there?
Chat, is Ben okay?
I'm fine. Yeah. No, I took a sip. I'm good.
All right. Just letting you know that we are essentially ready whenever you 3 or 4 are ready.
Okay.
Or 4.
So let's start off just like we talked about in the community space, which is let's start off with our deep breath. So I'll count 1, 2, 3. I'll take a deep breath. I'll let it go, and then we will get this podcast started. So 1, 2, 3. Welcome to the Unscripted room. Tonight, the theme is the craft, and our job as a panel is to explore what it is to fall in love with a craft and what it means to build a discipline around trying to figure out how close you can get to mastery of whatever it is that you've fallen in love with. And I think that we've assembled an amazing panel of diverse crafts that we can explore and talk about and figure out where they're different, where they're the same. Really excited to have all 3 of you here, excited for Oliver in the background. And if you guys are ready, we can get this kicked off by giving the first question over to Ben and letting you get this kicked off.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
What is your favorite color?
Purple. I like purple a lot.
Purple's a
Well,
What is your-
there is a
what
big
is your
purple
sign?
theme I've noticed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
What have you found in your craft that has kept you coming back? It's a very good question. There's probably 20 million things I could say about.
Just for the audience, do you guys mind as we answer this first question, just kind of talking about what you believe your craft is?
Yeah.
And then we can
What
kind of, and then you can go into why you keep going back to it. That way
Yeah.
everybody has that context.
I am a guitar player. I primarily play jazz, and I like rock, blues, and yeah, music has become my life, basically.
I guess I would be like a baker, chef, small business owner, all of the above.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So any of us can jump in at any time if we have context for each other. But I just want to say, Reem, like, I believe that you're a culinary artist. You know, when you taste your food, you can tell that you're somebody who really, really cares about what the person's experience is going to be on the other end of that. And Ben, I have been told by Oliver that you're not just a guitar player, but you are a pretty phenomenal musician,
He
guitar
shreds it.
player. Yeah. So, you know, tonight, guys, let's not undersell ourselves in how much you've dedicated yourself to your craft, because I think it almost undersells your craft when you do that as well.
That's true.
To also add on to that, I've known Ben for many years,
Yep.
and I can say that he is an absolute freak.
Thank you,
Guitar,
man.
in the best way.
No, I'll bring that back to you. Oliver and I played in the high school jazz band, and I got to see Oliver when I was younger. I was a sophomore, he was a senior. Big inspiration, and just seeing
Thank
you
you.
play jazz got me into it. And
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Not that. Yeah. I. Well. All right. Yeah. I am
Killer
also.
drummer.
Since everyone freaking. I am a drummer. But I'm a musician. I write music. I do a lot of music production. I went to school for it and really got into it. I have my band, Rab is for Sale,
promote that stuff.
to promote it because we're cool. But definitely, I would like at this point, and also for the sake of all of this, I will say drums is the big thing right now. Yeah.
I think it's cool sometimes too to be able to be specific about where our passion lies. So if you're able to give your focus time, it's to the drums, to the guitar, and you could even say that it's to a very specific kind of food that you love to make.
Yeah.
What all right, not to get off track or anything, but
Okay.
do you have a food truck?
It's a goal.
Okay.
Like the next goal, definitely.
What is like the type of food or whatever?
So I dabble in like both sweet and savory. I don't like sticking to one thing. I don't like being limited. That's
You know what?
You can't be limited in art.
Fuck
I
yeah, that
can't- I
rocks.
don't
That's
feel-
such
I
a
don't
good
feel
answer.
free if you limit me.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. But I
that.
love like making food, especially for people with allergies, because I feel like at the same time that's a challenge.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. not a lot of people
I
are
wish
like.
I knew ahead so I knew exactly what to make tonight. But
that's nice.
Hell yeah. All right. What was the question again?
What what have you found in your craft that has kept you coming back? Okay, I guess I'll start. The first thing that comes to mind is presence. You get no better presence than music, or at least in my life, the best moments of my life have come playing music and listening to music, where it feels like your entire body's focused on nothing but what is happening at the moment. And especially in a genre like jazz that's focused on improvisation and making things happen in the moment, I feel like that genre has brought me great presence in my life when I didn't have it enough of presence. You know what I mean?
Can I ask some questions? Because I love listening to music, but the way that music usually hits me is that it's like I've got all of these different radio stations and genres that I'm just trying to find the rhythm that allows me to feel like it's connecting to my body and whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So if I'm working out, it's one kind of music. If I'm trying to do work, it's another kind of music, and it switches around. But I know very little about jazz. But I found it very fascinating the way that you just described that jazz sounds like it's freedom. That you're supposed to, like, are you supposed to start in a certain key and then you have the freedom to be able to move where you want to? But can you kind of talk about what freedom means when you think about it in that way?
Yeah. Well, I'd say jazz, to put it simply, is freedom within a structure. So typically you play a standard, which is just a song, and there are typical chord changes. But within those chord changes, the musicians go all over the place and just do their own thing. And Oliver and I have played a lot of jazz in the past. And ideally, jazz is a place where all musicians are working together to create a moment. And the moment just happens out of nowhere, and it's you're listening to other people. And it's kind of like this podcast.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's kind of like what we were talking about out there about touching truth.
Yeah.
It's like if you could get everybody in sync and doing the same thing and feeling the same thing at exactly the same time, you might be able to get a sound that comes out of that's like anybody in the room just knows that it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is jazz.
Yep.
It's like freaking to add on to that. It's like when we used to play jazz together in high school, the bass player and the drummer are usually, that's the rhythm section. That's like you two are locking in and always kind of communicating in some way. I would look at Vance, our bass player, and my bass player in my band, and we'd like make a little look together. All of a sudden we're in double time swing where we're going like we're doubling the time, we're going fast. And then in reaction to that, whoever's soloing
Has to speed up with
has
that.
to speed up, has to like play to the feel of that. And then they start going louder and faster, and then it becomes like an explosive thing, or you do like the inverse of that, or you do something. Jazz is so cool. Jazz is freedom. It is looking for that moment of like, there it is.
Yeah.
There's that super beautiful thing that just came out of nowhere.
And it's also adjusting to the moment. Like,
Yeah.
in jazz, like, you will be thrown off at times. Like, there's this culture, and I don't want to make this podcast about jazz, but I'm very passionate about it.
That's why we do 3 hours, guys, because it gives us the time to talk about
Actually talk.
everything in real detail, right?
Yeah.
But I think this is fascinating to learn more about jazz. So
There's a culture of I need to think about what I was gonna say.
Thinking.
Yeah, no, somebody can take over. I need to come back to the thought. I lost it. I had something good, but then
So let's take it to the same side for food when you're thinking about it, right? Like if we're thinking about jazz as being freedom, where does that come into the culinary arts side? Where are you feeling the most free to be able to experiment with things and try different things?
I feel like also music has a big part with cooking. Like
Same
you
way,
don't
yeah.
think about it, but in how my process goes, music is a big part because what I'm making depends on also my playlist.
Huh.
So
That's so
cool.
So when I'm like making all the food for the farmer's market on Sunday, I make sweet and savory rolls. So when I'm making all the baked goods, I prefer chill music like jazz.
Yeah.
that's
Like-
cool.
Or like different artists as a whole, but just more chill beats, something that's still uplifting, but I'm not like what's a good word to use? Like I'm not like a headless chicken running around the room.
Yeah.
Like I'm very calm.
Yeah.
And then when I'm making a bit more intense food, spicy food, I listen to more rock.
hell yeah.
So the playlist also just depends on what I'm making. And I have to say, I give both of you so much credit as musicians because I love going to concerts and just seeing them play live music rather than just having a DJ set in the back is so much like I appreciate it more.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
I
gonna
also
say,
love eating food.
That too.
isn't it cool that you can connect two completely unrelated things like music and food, but they can be related? Like, you said the spicy food with rock music. There's something about the elements of those things that are connected, but they're totally different in a way.
I think we're going to make the case tonight, Ben, that if you get close to mastery of anything, then you actually understand what it looks like for any other thing to be mastered.
Mm.
You know, so there's a connection once you get to the level of getting really good at something. You start to realize, oh, like there's a rhythm to rock that's the same as a rhythm to this kind of food in the way that your body interprets it. And the more you meet people who have invested themselves in something that's a little bit different than what you have, the more you'll find alignment on where those things sync up.
Yeah, the processes for what we'd call mastery are very much the same in that it requires a lot of dedication in small bits to actually getting there.
Time.
Yep, it's all about the time.
There's not a single person that I've ever met that's been good at something that didn't invest time. There's lots of people that I've met who have been naturally good at things, but they didn't get a level of real understanding of that craft until they combine their talent with the time.
Mm-hmm.
But time seems to be the thing that you cannot avoid if you want to become great at something. You have to put in the time. There's no other way.
Hell yeah.
This kind of, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I actually read a book about it recently. The idea of talent versus what you actually put into a craft.
Mm-hmm.
And it mentioned like Mozart, and people bring up Mozart as an example of somebody that was naturally talented. But if you look at his life, his father basically made him play music from the age of 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like tonight to discuss talent and what we actually think about talent, because the more I've thought about it, the more I think talent is not a thing.
Yeah.
Can we do this from our own? Like, I would love to know from the three of you, if from the thing that you've chosen to do as your craft, how much talent do you think you have for it? And then let's break it down from our own perspective so that we can be really honest about what talent looks like. I'll do it from my perspective as well, but so for you, if you want to get us started, like how much talent do you think you started with versus you just had the grit to be able to outwork everybody else, to be able to get as good as you are on the guitar?
Okay. Well, one thing I'll say, I don't want to be arrogant, but like I've only been playing for 5 years, and I'll just say that the growth I've had in these 5 years is probably not normal compared to, like I'd say I started late, but I started at 16. But you have all these people that started when they were like 6 in elementary school or something.
Right.
But like I've started very late, so I think there's something unusual about the stage I've reached.
That's
but
true.
Thank you all.
I
Peanut
very much agree with that.
Thank you.
From like jamming with you senior year in the band room 5th period.
Yeah, I remember that lunch period.
Dude,
Yeah.
you've been a freak. You've become
Yeah.
a freak.
And it's
A freak. Look at him.
Look at him.
in a good way. It's hard work, but also just, I think passion tied to hard work makes things easier.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have gotten this far if I didn't love jazz as much as I did. And I didn't even play jazz before I started in sophomore year. And just from there, it just became the thing.
Before you started playing music, could you tell that you had a talent for something else and then it just became applicable to music in some way? Like, did you always have an ability to be able to catch rhythm really quickly, or you understood tone in a way that other people didn't? Is there a way to kind of break down like the specificity of what you thought made you be able to apply yourself to that so quickly?
That's a very good question. I've actually thought about that. Like, from a young age, I do remember just being very dancey with music, and I was just always connected to it. But I think from a young age, I had a knack for memorizing like irrelevant things. Like I was big into dinosaurs and penguins. I remember I memorized a lot of things about those two animals, or those
Fire.
two. And I think I've kind of applied this in my mind to jazz recently. There's a lot of songs to remember.
Mhm.
There's thousands. Like
Mhm.
they just come up. And I think my memorization is good when it comes to stuff that I'm really excited about.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I'm most fascinated about, guys, because I would say that my craft is training and development, which over time has become more obvious to me that my real craft is mindset, trying to understand how you can help somebody adjust their mindset so that their mind is now working for them to create better opportunities at all time. But it seems like the more work I've done on that, the more you can start to realize that interest is the key component to being able to find the opportunity for your talent to emerge. But it's like you've got to start with a wild amount of interest in something, and then that interest has to be able to grow into the discipline of being able to do it all the time and the dedication. But it's really wild when you start to look at what your interest was and why was it there? Was it there when you were born? Was it something that you developed? Is it nurture? Is it nature? I think these are some of the most fascinating questions we can ask ourselves about ourselves.
It's mysterious. Why do we like something? We can say reasons for it, but ultimately that doesn't really explain why you're connected to it, if that makes sense. Like, it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Aptitude, interest, exposure, being around somebody where you meet somebody, you guys met each other, become an inspiration,
Yeah.
Oliver, you're right. And then all of a sudden, because you have an energy,
That's true.
you have an energy that
Yeah.
you were attracted to and wanted to be like, oh, I actually really enjoy what it feels like to be around these people, to play
Yeah.
music with these people. Then all of a sudden that grows into being able to kind of like tap into it more often.
Yeah. So it's what you feel when you watch something that makes you like. I have a memory of you guys playing at lunch during sophomore year, and I was like simultaneously jealous, but just so inspired because it's just that's what made me want to play jazz. Is just the spirit of you guys playing.
Hell yeah.
And
I remember that.
yeah,
I
no,
remember it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you
wasn't
guys
it?
played "Sing a Song of Song," and I was just
The,
the chords just hit me in a way where I had to find some way to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's been this thing where I listen to music and I'm like, how can I replicate that in my own playing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I actually just I watched a documentary the other night on the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the one that's on Netflix. Has anybody else watched that?
No,
I haven't watched, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
It was super interesting because it wasn't what it wasn't what I thought the documentary was going to follow. It was basically a love story about the three of them, the main people in the band, and how they had tried all these different versions of them playing music and different, in different bands and different stuff. But there was a friendship between the three of them that was so profoundly strong that when they started playing music together, they were so in sync with one another that it just ended up like working in a way that it couldn't work. And that there was almost like, not to be cheesy about it, but it was almost like the love that these guys had for each other was actually the thing that made the music work.
Yeah.
Which I just thought was like a really beautiful story in general.
Yeah. I think I've found as a jazz musician playing with a bunch of different people, there are some people you play with where just things happen and others they just don't. And that's just it's not a bad thing, but just your relation to that person, the music. And when I play with Oliver, just like things explode like when we play the music. It just it gets good.
Same with you as well, though. Like,
Yeah.
to be fair, like honestly, from how I grew up. Oh my gosh! All right, okay. So my dad wanted a drummer because he's a guitarist, and he was like, it's like that's like kind of a joke I tell, but like it's a little bit true. So he definitely was like, you should play drums, and like I definitely showed some sort of like leaning towards, I would I would dance a lot as a kid. I was like, oh, this is fucking sick. So I took lessons. I got really good at drums, and I played with my dad starting at a young age. So I've always been in bands, and we had a band for a while. We just did like punk rock covers, and then I discovered jazz. I got really into that and all this stuff. But like, not to like make myself seem better than I am per se. my biggest thing is I'm very, very good at like reading people in general, and I have the gift of gab for sure. And I can, and that applies to drums specifically because, especially in jazz, you're playing and your left hand, especially, you're really trying to have a conversation with the person soloing. And you have some very beautiful, tasty licks in there, and like you play something that's like boop ba dee da boop, like
And
something
you respond.
silly. Yeah, and I respond. I emulate it. I'm like ba ba da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know, I do something similar, and I try and have a conversation with it. And that's honestly why I honestly struggle with soloing on drums, especially in jazz, because
Is there nothing to?
there's nothing to react to. So
Yeah.
it's just me ranting,
No, I
which
get
I can
that.
do on my own. I can like rant about anything
Yeah.
for a while. But like it's with jazz, it's like it's more fun for me to have a conversation.
Just so you know, like in all of your solos I've watched, I've never thought that you would have had that inner monologue where like
I'm like,
your soul, yeah, your solos are great. Like,
thank you.
and part of jazz is this response and listening, and there's also this is part of a lot of different kinds of music, but there's somebody in the center stage soloing, and the rhythm section, like bass, drums, whatever, like piano, guitar, they're elevating the person that is in the front. And like when I take a solo, I want it to have like an arc, like it builds, it goes somewhere. And like when you play drums, you can follow that. You know, you can hear the cues to be like, we're going to the next part of the solo.
Yeah.
This is about to get cool. And
This
it's little
shit's about to get
steps.
crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see where the arc is going, especially like even in terms of like pitch, like
If I'm going
we're
up, you're
more
going.
minor. Yeah, you're going up. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna
Yep.
relate to that or try to do something. And maybe I'll look at Vance and be like, all right,
Time to
double time swing or something. You know,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
silly.
Am I wrong though, guys? That this is probably not something that you can think about in the moment. It's not like you're
Ooh.
necessarily like thinking that
Ooh,
you need
it's-
to do it. It's just that you've practiced so much that now your
Like muscle
hand is an
memory in a
extension.
Yeah.
way.
It is
Yeah.
more muscle memory for sure. But it also depends. Like sometimes I'm thinking about it, or sometimes it is more like you hear it and then you're like, oh, maybe I should try
Yeah.
this instead of doing this or something. But I guess it is usually more muscle memory,
It's
at
true.
least with me personally.
Yeah. When I play guitar, it's a lot of it is thinking about what I'm going to play, but then the muscle memory follows that.
Right.
But ideally, anytime I take a solo, I'm trying to think of where it's going to end up. Like it needs to be in a higher place than when it started. And Oliver can just elevate that by, it's like all the musicians are going on a journey to this peak. And we want to reach this beautiful peak where the audience can just be like, wow, that came out of nowhere.
I very much want to experience you two playing music together. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Like
No,
this,
same
it's
here.
the passion that the two of you have to be able to do it is extraordinary. Like you can just tell if you're in the room and be able to, you'd feel, I would feel honored to be able to listen to people who love their craft as much as the two of you do. Right? That's an incredible thing.
Yeah.
Play at my restaurant.
Yeah, it's genuinely.
So if we do
I'll
for
be
a
there.
moment, if we switch over to what it's like for this in like what comes up for you as you hear them talking about music, is there a connection in the way that you feel about culinary arts in finding that same like do you feel like you were born with something that made you love food and love the way that you can turn cooking into an expression?
Honestly, like it has nothing to actually do with the food in a way, because before I even like found the passion for it, again, it was like later in high school where I found the passion for it and like doing it now. Before then, my parents always like threw me in everything. But the one thing that always stuck to me and still sticks to me to this day, I get a little embarrassed by it. I used to be a tap dancer for jazz music.
Dude, no, that's awesome. That's so
It's a
cool.
good craft. That's
If
you have
was
no
in
idea.
the room that was cool in. This is the room. This
Dude,
is the room for
No need to
sure.
be
Jazz
embarrassed.
drummers, like a lot of old jazz drummers used to be tap dancers as well. They would learn it because it's so good for jazz drumming.
You played with a tap dancer in high school.
Yeah, I did. I forgot about. Oh, tap dancing. Sorry, tap dancing. So
No,
I
no.
have always wanted to learn how to jazz tap dance.
It's so much fun.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Oh,
It's so much fun.
I remember our teacher showing us it too. Sorry.
Well,
No,
it, must
no,
be,
you're
it must be
fine.
kind of like the ultimate expression of mind-body connection to rhythm.
It's true.
Right? Because you've got to
Seriously.
like got to let your body create the rhythm completely. Drumming I've never done drumming, but from what I've seen and heard other people talk about, that also seems like an out of body, like you've got to let go because you've got too many limbs doing too many things to.
You do have to like not think usually.
Yeah.
It depends, but like yeah.
In the beginning of any craft, you have to
interrupt
think.
you.
How does
Yeah,
that
so
connect to the music?
bring
How
us
does
back
that
to your tap
food?
dancing and
Oh my god. It was just something that always stuck with me, and like they threw me in everything, like sports. I still did art for a time, and then they were like, "Let's try dance." So they threw me in hip hop. They threw me in ballet. None of it was sticking, and then they're like, "Try tap dancing." And for whatever reason, it just stuck so well. I loved moving. I loved the sound that it made with the specific shoes that you had to wear to do it.
Yeah.
And then obviously my dance class was like a little different, and they also had like singing lessons, so they threw me in that too.
Are you gonna sing for us tonight?
No.
Are you, gonna
Are
tap
you
dance and
singing?
sing for
Do you
us?
have
No.
a singing and tap dancing song prepared for this event?
No.
Would that not be the coolest thing if she got onto this table right
That
now?
would be-
Absolutely. My
pretty
shoes are in my
awesome.
bag. I'm
Whatever.
ready
None
to
of the
go.
mics pick it up
She
either.
just randomly had shoes in a bag behind
All
her.
of her
She puts
fixed
on-
cameras.
Well, I really am prepared for this.
Yeah, no.
It caught me off guard.
Yeah, no. So like singing and tap dancing was like the main two that I always stuck with. Like I would do it for talent shows. We did performances at local colleges, and that was like the most fun I've ever had doing those two things. So even now, I still will like low key tap dance. Like when
That
I'm
rocks.
cooking,
Keep it going. You gotta like, even if you're into food now, like keep the passion for whatever makes you feel good going. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's why I was thinking like if you saw me at Savaticus, because like whenever I'm like preparing everybody's food that they're ordering, like I will be dancing, and most likely I'm tap dancing
Dude,
to
that
the floor.
rocks. That's so sick.
But
What do you tap dance to when you're cooking?
honestly, I just will think of like what song is playing, even though if it's not even jazz. Like I just
Yeah.
need to move my feet, and I still remember the rhythm that they taught us because specific movements that you do to create the sound the shoes will make. So I will still mimic those same movements because it's just so ingrained in my mind.
Have you found, does that make you present when you're making food? If you're
I feel like that helps me like lock in a way.
yeah,
If
like really
just
focused.
doing those movements and then wearing specific shoes. Like I don't have the tap shoes anymore, sadly, but I
We'll get
do
you some
have
tap
shoes that
shoes.
will still mimic. Please,
We all chicken
but I
money.
do have shoes that like will still mimic like the clicky clacky sound that the shoes. Yeah, that.
Mm.
So I will wear those specific shoes to the event so I can still hear the sound. I can lock in. I cannot go crazy when like I have a line of people trying to get shawarmas or something.
I was describing to somebody one time that a lot of the best thoughts that I've ever had for anything that just the thoughts that have been the most helpful to me in my life always seem to happen while I'm in the shower. And I was just saying this as a statement, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to get any feedback, but the person gave me some amazing feedback. And what they were saying was that the reason why those thoughts are probably happening for me in the shower is because while I'm in the shower, I'm doing something that I've done thousands of times. Like every part of my body isn't having to think about what you do in the shower. You've done all of that so many times. So as soon as your body gets into something that's very familiar, your mind opens itself up to be able to be the primary user of your energy. And then it allows these thoughts to start to come in that are not, sometimes they don't even feel like they're your own. You know what I mean? It just feels like you're getting access to thoughts that are coming to you that you can kind of like grab one and be like, oh, that was fucking awesome. I've never had that one before. But I wonder if that's also what's happening if you can get into something that feels rhythmic and it feels like it's a learned response that you've done so many times, that also allows the mind to be wildly open to, allowing
It
things
like
for
allows
cooking
the
to come in.
mind to be free, whether I'm singing or like tippy tapping. Like it just helps me like get in the rhythm, and I don't like lose my pace
Yeah.
or I don't like fall out of rhythm. So like even then, like David, he won't say it to people because I tell him not to call me that, but he does give me a nickname because it's so prominent. But he calls me Happy Feet.
Oh, that's a great nickname. Yeah.
Great
that
movie.
I love that.
That was my favorite movie as a kid.
Yeah, no,
That
same.
rocks.
Yeah.
How cool is it though that you can be cooking, making something delicious, right? And the best way to make it more delicious is that you get to be happy
Mm.
and that you get to have fun and you get to have
is
happy feet
insane.
and you get to, and you like, it's amazing how much of life everybody keeps telling you that you've got to conform to this idea that somehow not having fun is the only way to be productive. And yet everything that I've ever learned about training and development is that play is the number one way that you figure out how to become excellent at something. That you have to play. You have to love it. You got to be in it. You got to be invested. Because if you're not, the chances that you're actually going to tap into something or spend the amount of time to be able to open yourself up to tapping into something, it probably goes down significantly.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched the show Spider Noir? It just came out.
I've
I
not. What is
would like
what's it
to.
about?
It's like how the Spider-Man movie when it first came out, the animated one, where it was like all these different variations of different Spider-Man.
Spider-Verse?
Yes, Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
They
It
Watched
was
the
inclu-
first
they
one.
made Nicolas Cage.
Yes, they
Oh, it's
made
so
Spider
Wait, what
Noir, and they play a lot of jazz music
Oh,
in
really?
Spider Noir, and
awesome.
oh, I've been loving it.
I love. There's a lot of in pop culture these days, just like jazz thrown into stuff, and it's become like this almost like alien foreign thing to people. When in like the 20s and 30s and 40s, like jazz was pop music,
Yeah.
but now it's like seen as this distant thing.
Yeah.
It's just a strange thing to think about.
How it's become nostalgic.
Yeah, it's definitely a nostalgic thing.
What's the song?
Nostalgia in Times Square.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, I want to say nostalgia in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's not right.
You were talking about when your mind's empty, that's when the best stuff can come out.
Yeah.
And I think part of playing music or any kind of craft is you need that solitary time where your mind is empty, or else the good stuff's not gonna come.
You talked about it earlier, and I think, if we don't talk about it specifically now, we should definitely talk about it tonight, which is flow, right? Because it's so interesting to try to figure out what is required to be able to get into flow. And I think what it is, in a lot of ways, probably both sides of it, but I think a lot of it is like you need to be 100% focused on something. And then you also have to be practiced enough at the thing that you're focusing on to allow your either your body or your mind, whichever combination of that is, to be able to just
Do its thing.
And also being able to process something else, at the same time. We've had this conversation a number of times. We did a podcast about automotive racing, and it came up, how you get flow in stuff, that sometimes it's like the danger of something can increase the chances of flow. But that could also happen when you're trying to play music in front of people and there's the pressure of people that are there. That can also be its own form of feeling like you're doing something kind of dangerous, or you're getting ready for, an event that's really important to you.
Freaking Rush.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
A little
that's
Rush
tough.
going.
But I
Literally
am
just getting
curious,
a little
Oliver,
electric
you,
guitar shredding in my head.
so you grew up in a music family.
Yes.
It sounds like we could do a whole podcast on how interesting it would be to grow up with a father who already was like trying to, sounds like he was living his music career and bringing you along, and the relationship of that must have been amazing.
It was pretty cool. Like I deeply love my dad, like a lot. We have our troubles for sure, as everyone does with their parents. But I love my dad because while like in some ways it is like he wanted a drummer, he wanted me to be a drummer, and it's like, well, you didn't let me do my own thing. That was going to be my thing, and I'm so glad that did happen. But it was literally like it would be 11, 12, every like a bunch of nights. I'd be sitting there in my PJs playing these Clash songs with my dad, and
That's a bonding experience.
it is, and it's like it's me, my dad, and our neighbor John, who was a bassist, and these other people playing these songs, like all these different Clash songs, and then other bands, random things, and it's just like it gave me the ability. It really gave me the ability to like react, and which is the biggest thing with music, in my opinion, and with drums especially, is like, you can sit there, and I really, really struggle with reading music. You can sit there and you can read music all day. But the improv aspect of music, and also like most other arts, and I can also very much imagine with culinary, there's a lot of improv, thinking on your feet. When there's a rush, you're just like, holy shit, I'm out of this ingredient.
Oh my
Fuck it.
god, it's happened before.
Yeah, and like I'm a barista, so and it's
my
not
lord.
super similar, but like I have to deal with a lot of rushes and stuff, things like that. You have to improvise, and you have to learn how to think on your feet like that. And being in those situations with my dad, definitely taught me that. And then moving on to jazz, where that's the whole core element is improvisation.
Yep.
Learning through that was huge. And then I get my own band. I start doing gigs and things. And it's like improvisation doesn't always just apply to music. It's like,
It's life.
shit. Yeah, it's life. You forget an XLR cable. Oh,
What do I do?
shit.
Who
Let me
am I
go.
gonna ask to get
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Let me go
Yep.
to the other band and be like, hey.
I've had that experience.
Right?
before.
It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like you have to learn how to interact with people and like develop these skills. And I think drums, especially because drums is usually a very consistent part of music, at least because it's the most rhythmic. Like you are you're decorating that quarter note.
Are you leading when you're on the drums? Are you
Oh.
kind of you're the one setting the tone
I'll just-
for what
I'll just-
everything is?
Say that the drummer is the most important part of the band. No matter, a drummer can make a bad band sound great. If your drummer's not
Yeah.
good, the whole thing falls apart. That's just my experience.
I just listened to a long
Something,
form
something, Buddy
podcast with
Rich.
the drummer from Motley Crue,
Oh, freaking
Lee.
yeah. What's his name? Like, it's not Chris Lee. I
I don't know. He's
remember.
like equally well known for his relationship with Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
But I know he's a world class drummer.
Mm-hmm.
But it was super interesting to listen to him talk about his craft because there was so much about drumming that I just didn't understand. That you think of the lead singer as being the one who's maybe setting the tone for everything that was going on, and it was very clear he wasn't doing it in an arrogant way, but it was very clear the way that he was describing how music actually works, that it's all coming from the rhythm, that's coming from the drummer, and that is what sort of allows everything else to come into clearer vision.
Right,
So how
yeah.
much of that do you think was naturally born into you? Because I think that was your question
Yeah.
earlier. How
What-
much do you
yeah.
think of this is nurture, and how much do you think is nature?
Honestly, I don't believe that talent does not exist per se, because I do think I have talent that I was born with. However, I don't know if I'd say drumming I was born with drumming or anything like that, or even music.
So what do you think is the baseline talent that has allowed you to get this good at what you're doing?
I've always been very good with people. As a kid, my parents used to call me Mr. Mayor because at restaurants, I would go up, I would just fucking leave. I would go up to tables and be like, hey, what's up? And I would just start talking to people as like this little shit. And they're just like, we're trying to eat our meal.
Can I
but-
join?
Yeah, it is so funny.
It's so funny too because if I had to describe Oliver in some so I don't think it has to do with the fact that you both have the same name, but but Oliver might be the most curious human being I've ever met, which is part of the reason why I love him. And
Oh, dude, I love
but he'll go
Oliver.
and talk to anybody about anything. So it's funny that the two
Well, that's
of you
how we
found
met.
each other.
I'd say it's an openness thing to some degree.
Yeah.
Like you and Oliver are just like very open people. And you need that for music, I would say.
Yeah, and well, that's why I think like being able to talk and being charismatic, but also like openness applies to music and really every art. But to get specific, it really does help with drums because it is all, well, it's not all, but so much of it is improvisation.
I was gonna ask you, so to me the drums, you can respond in a moment to like whatever I'm playing, but how much presence does it take for that quarter note pulse? Like so something about like bass and drums that I respect a lot is that you're the person that holds it down. Like you're leading the team in the sense that you are disciplined in keeping the same thing going over and over again without really changing it up too much. How does presence play into like your ride cymbal when you're playing jazz?
So, okay, clarifying.
Yeah.
Question. When you say presence, do you mean like how like aware am I per se?
Yeah, just like what are you thinking about like the tempo, like keeping it locked in, like
I honestly, and I do mean this, I don't freaking know. Because I do
I get
sit
that.
there and it is like it depends. Like sometimes my mind wanders. in terms of thoughts, and I do have a very scattered brain. Like
You need that for art.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Like most people, it seems, I do have ADHD and stuff. So I my brain tends to wander, but I keep a very I'm present. I am present. I am there. I'm locked in. I hear everything, and everything happens behind the scenes, on like a subconscious level. I think at least.
Yeah. I just
know?
think that the ride pattern in jazz is with the bass is one of the beautiful things because
Yeah.
you have two people that are working together to hold the foundation for something that's
Yeah.
beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's hard to lock in. It really is. And also at the same time, it's easy if that's
you're
kinda stupid
With
but,
a friend like Vance, I'm assuming
Yeah.
you and him just like have played so much together that it's natural for you guys to lock in because you know each other's tendencies. You know?
Yeah, we do, and we also know each other very well. Like, Vance.
Love Vance.
Vance is he's our bassist and Rabbits for Sales bassist, and just like my lifelong friend. He does not talk much.
That's true.
If you put him on this podcast, it would be miserable. No. That's not
agree.
true. He does when he does speak, it is a lot. Like it's very meaningful, but he also
He chooses words.
yeah,
I'd
he
say.
chooses words and he sits there and he likes, he'll be on his phone a lot too and things like that. But in some ways, like I know him better as a musician, as an artist, because I see him play and I understand how he plays, and it's not something I can describe or really say, but it's just like when you're in the zone, you're playing, I'm sitting there, I'm playing, and I'm like, that's what he's doing. I know exactly where he's going and I know where he's leading to. I can see his movements, I can read him. I don't know.
Do you think it's possible for people to get to know you better through your craft than they could through your conversation?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So can we stop on that for a second and
Yeah.
and kind of explore why? Like, what is it about the expression of your craft that makes you feel like people can actually see you if they listen to it, or they taste it, or they experience a training that we're trying to put on? Like, we could look at it from all angles.
I'd say there has to be a level of playfulness when I play. I want the audience to feel that playfulness. And part of that is expression within playing guitar because there's slides, there's bends, there's many different things there's the way you pick a note that can make it more expressive. And my goal is to express personality and what I like in music through playing. And I do like dynamics, which is, quiet to loud, some natural build, because I think it reflects life in a way. Like if you work on a craft enough, you build it and you can contain that within a solo where it just goes from here to here. And it's just, that's what it's about to me. I don't know.
I gotta say, whenever you talk about your craft, you light up. It's like really fun to watch.
I know,
I'm
I-
so excited about
No,
it. So the other question to that might also be, so it's very clear that when you've got your guitar in your hand that you are emoting who you are. When you don't have a guitar in your hand, does that become very difficult for you to let people feel how fun you are, and that you've got your own personal scale of how that goes outside of music?
I'd actually say yes completely. Like there are times, honestly, where if I'm walking and I don't have anything in my hands, like a case or an amp, I almost feel odd
Yeah.
in a way. But I know who I am as a person, and the music can reflect that. But yes, I'd say without guitar, in some situations, it is harder to break out of the bubble in a way. And I find that this cool thing can happen on stage where I am making faces and making movements that I would never make outside.
Yeah.
Me.
You're free.
Like
Right? You're free.
I'm free.
Yeah.
Like
the stank
the
face.
stank face, exactly.
Everyone has one. Yeah.
it comes
Is
out
it possible for us to see it now, or is it only come out when
It
you have a
honestly,
guitar in
I
your
think
hand?
like I have like ones I've picked up on that I've.
You notice. You become aware.
I mean, Reem is gonna tap dance for us, so it's
Yes, that is gonna happen.
Crazy, really. If we, if we did
I've noticed.
Gonna Give me the right shoes and give me like 3 more glasses. Then we'll talk.
I will. It'll happen.
It'll
We'll
happen.
be in talks. Yeah,
Alright.
we will pay for your lessons and we will get you on the
Alright,
show.
just know if you
100%.
ever want me to sing, preferably like singing in screamo.
Actually, you are. Wait, I
can see that.
Fuck. I would love to do that at some point. I
I can go high pitch, but preferably I just love screaming.
that rocks.
I can see that. There's just something about you. I feel like you could just take out a lot of energy in
Yes.
some ways. Yeah, yeah.
That's so, dude, hell yeah. I also love screaming on one of my songs. I always scream at the end of it. So that rocks.
I'll be okay.
Or like
Yeah,
throw in
dude.
like your
Yeah, I'd be
vocal
okay.
stim in the song.
Yeah, some bullshit.
Like the artist I went to recently, I went to see Joji, and one of his like popular
Frank.
Filthy Frank, and one of his popular vocal stims. He'll just start randomly. He'll just go like, "Unblock me, bitch."
I love that guy.
Song nothing to do with that.
Yeah, nothing to do with what's going on. It just there you go.
That's so cool.
So my stank face kind of comes up. It's not a stank face, but my dad's told me his mom played the organ, and she did this thing when she would play where her lips would like when I'm focused on music. He said, "Yeah, no, he's seen it before."
God.
When I'm focused, my dad says I made the exact same face that his mom made,
Interesting.
and it's just I don't know. I could probably pull it up in a picture or something, but just I do something with my lips where I'm so
Yeah.
intent.
Editor, flash a picture
I'll find it.
of
Zoom
Ben.
right
Um,
in.
I've been noticing it in my practice recently. Like recently, I've been more really intentional with my practice, and I find that when I'm practicing something difficult, it happens. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Have you ever
but-
recorded yourself so you could see what it?
I can. There's probably clips of me performing where I can see the face.
Yeah.
And it's just good to know that I'm so present on something that it's happening.
That's a wonderful perspective to take too. That you're like not approaching it with any level of self consciousness. That it's like almost like a gift that you can be free. I have I can relate to it in that there are sometimes when I would get into a facilitation, if you're like teaching and you're in a room, there's a certain version of you that gets to emerge.
Mhm.
And it never felt like a persona. It never felt like I was being performative, but I was able to tap into something that felt like a performance simultaneously. But it felt like a version of myself that was being real in the performance of whatever was happening in the classroom. But I didn't feel disingenuous.
So teaching in a school position, kind of what like.
Well, so most of my career, I've done professional facilitation. So, like going into in this particular, the time that I spent most of my time is in the automotive industry. So I would go in and teach courses about what we would call soft skills. So the way that you can develop interpersonal relationships and the way that you can start to better understand yourself so that you can start to have an easier opportunity to be able to understand how you can build relationships with others, essentially, right? But in that, there's just a lot of vulnerability that ends up coming up. So kind of like this, it's like an unscripted environment that you're in. And if you're doing it well, you're allowing it to flow if you
Yeah.
can. But I always just found I had this weird sensation that there was times in my life where I would go into my personal life and I would feel like I was struggling to find the same level of flow in my personal life that I was able to find when I was in this sort of like semi-stage environment. And I had to do a lot of self-reflection to figure out whether I was doing that because I had some sort of character that I was playing when I was facilitating, or was I playing a character when I was not facilitating and I just didn't have the confidence to be able to bring the
Yeah.
confidence from one place into the other.
Yeah.
And what I discovered was it was more of the latter. I was having a hard time taking my professional confidence and bringing it into my personal life. But as I learned how to develop that, it actually improved both sides of my life
Yeah.
significantly.
It's tough because certain situations they just bring out different parts of you. It's like there's the idea of the social mask where in this situation you're acting like this, or in this situation you're a completely different person. And that's something I've struggled with in my life. It's like you said, the personal and
It's so
professional. Like
hard.
So hard.
how can you bridge the gap between every situation in your life to where you are authentic?
Yeah. Well,
Is there a you?
yes.
Deeper question.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I had a one of my friends, Ebas, I've
You guys
had
have the weirdest.
Evo,
her last,
Yeah.
her last
I
name
mean, I'm
is,
digging
is,
it.
is
But
Basson.
some weird names.
That's
Oh
all.
shit! Wait, I don't even know if I don't think it matters. Does not matter. But we were talking about this very in depthly once, Jesus, and how I personally really struggle with that because I will very much change my behavior on depending on who I'm around. Because it's like it's a matter of what they believe in, and it's a matter of how they act for me, I think.
Yep.
So if it's someone who's like very politically charged in a very specific way, then you want to like understand that and maybe avoid things or like lean into things. And then also if they're a quieter person, you don't want to be obnoxious and things like that. And you want to understand their humor is a huge thing for me as well. But I was venting about this, and they said the line of like, "Are you yourself when you're alone?" And I was like, "That's a great lyric. I'm gonna write that down." But it is true. It's like, "Are you yourself when you're alone?" And I honestly feel like, no. I feel like I'm more myself when I'm with other people. And it honestly depends. Like, I think I'm just me, and whoever I am depends partially on who I'm around, but there's still a core element of me and how I interact and how I am.
You know how when we were talking before we came on to the podcast that it's like one of the biggest opportunities of self-awareness is to realize that your extraordinary gift is also going to be your extraordinary deficit, and that it's so critical for you to be able to love yourself completely.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? But even in this small amount of time that we've spent together, it is so obvious that your extraordinary gift is people. That you have the ability to be able to be endearing to anybody that you're in the room, and you're not a hard person to fall in love with in that way. You know what I mean? Like it's just there. You're open for it, and you know. But on the other side of that, the skill that you've been developing since you were a child is people pleasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you think about that, if you
Diagnosed.
think about that primarily as the way that your brain, and it just like remove your sense of yourself from this, but you just think about the way that a mind works. You've been practicing over a very long amount of time that anytime you're with somebody else, you know how to adapt to that room to make sure that you can allow the room to come to you. But then when you're alone in a room, there's nowhere to use those skills anymore. So it's like so many parts of what you feel like could be your identity on a regular basis. When you're alone, you almost feel like you don't know what the identity is without somebody else to play with.
There's like no feedback for
Exactly, which also
yeah.
makes a ton of sense if you were drumming and that was part of the, the rhythm of what you're doing. But the truth is that everything that you bring into that room is the same as it is when you're alone. It's just really hard to be able to connect the dots on why that's true, because for anybody who's really good with people, and I found this in my own life to be true for sure, the number one thing that you deal with is loneliness. It's the number one thing that is the most scary thing that you'll ever deal with in your whole life, is being like, well, how often do I have to be in a room by myself? Because it's not nearly as much fun as being able to play with whatever else is out there.
I hate practicing.
No, I get that. I feel that. I'm on the polar end of this. I find my loneliness is what drives me to get better at music, and I need that time alone to really hone in on what I need to work on. And yeah, I'll just say I think solitude has helped me a lot in my development as a person. And I'll just say, like, my allergies as a kid, that led me to not being able to interact with other kids as much because of issues with, if they had dog hair, cat hair on their clothes or
Yeah,
anything.
it must have been one of the hardest things. I mean, literally, if you are allergic to a lot of stuff, that's
interact.
like a guarantee that you're going to be in isolation more than you should. Right?
Especially with kids and just how they act in general. But I think it was extremely important for my development to be alone, even though there are times where I wish I had gotten that window of social development.
Yeah,
I know it paved the way for my passions and what I'm interested in.
So what did you learn while you were alone? Because I've also practiced being alone a lot, and I feel like it's extremely helpful when you learn how to be alone without being lonely. You know what I mean? Or that you can even getting to the point where you can be alone and you can recognize that you're having feelings of loneliness, but you're like, oh, it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's just one of the feelings that you have, and it passes just like good feelings. Bad feelings come and go the same way as long as you just observe them instead of identify with them.
Yeah. What was your question?
But just, what do you feel like you learned from that time in isolation, and how did that help you kind of come out of it feeling energized to be able to bring that energy towards something?
I'd say being alone allows for the freedom for your mind to go towards what it wants to go towards. Yeah, I mean that's all I'd say. Like just the solitude allows you, without the influence of external factors, to really, what is it that I like? And I think that has helped with my musical influences and stuff. Like I don't care what other people would listen to or what they would want me to listen to. It's always been about what really I found the spark in. And discovering jazz in high school was the best thing that happened to me in my
it's
life.
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like in your soul. You feel it.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I never got the chance to experience that. Like I never listened to jazz before high school, but now it's like
Yeah.
part of my life.
This might be a slightly strange question, but for the three of you, if you had to take a percentage of your consciousness that you think gets dedicated to your craft at any given moment, so music, culinary arts, I'll say for my side, training and development, this business, like what percentage do you think it is of your overall self that is like thinking about this or passionate about this?
Or talk about like any moment, daily life, or
Just like let's say in a given day, so 24 hours, you wake up, you go to bed, in the time that you have been doing that, or maybe even in sleep, it might happen for some of us too, but like what percentage of your focus is like, I just want to do this, and then I have to have a percentage of my time where I'm
other stuff.
forced to do the other stuff, but it's only so that I can get back to doing this. Like what percentage of your focus goes towards your love of your craft?
I feel like that's a hard question. Because for me, that's obviously, I love what I do. So I will go at it for hours to the point like I need to be reminded of, hey, you need to drink some water.
You have that level of focus that goes into it.
Like
where you
until
can
I
just-
reach a point of satisfaction that I can step away from this, I will go at it for hours on end.
Yep, I've had exactly the same experience where you forget your own needs because your mind is so focused on.
Yeah,
the
they're
exact
like,
same thing.
when was the last time you drank water? Have you used the bathroom? Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
that's a level of dedication that like that's cool. That's why I aspire. Like I still don't believe I have that, level of capability where I can go hours on end, but I still want to reach that.
Yeah.
But
It's also too like culinary arts development. They might not be as physically demanding in the moment in the same way, but if you're drumming, you're doing the guitar, like that's almost like a professional athlete, right? Like you've got to think about it. Like you might not be using your arms and legs in the same way, but even more like the use of your fingertips, the kinds of things. Like I almost think of it the same way that if I watch something about a rock climber and you think like, this person's like a superhero in how strong their fingers are, or how strong their wrists are, or strong their, things that you wouldn't think if you were a basketball player would be all that important. But if you're a musician, I bet you there are parts of your body that you have gotten so finely tuned that other people would never be able to play the drums or the guitar for as long as you.
yeah,
Definitely. There's you develop your calluses. First off.
calluses, guitar calluses. All of mine are completely gone, but the first like 3 to 4 years, that was tough. Like having calluses,
Yeah.
but it forms your fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
And then they
Do you
just
have
reform
calluses here?
it.
What? No, actually. I mean, I think all my calluses are gone. Like, which is just like weird to think about. That it was such a like at a moment in my life, it was bad to experience them, but now it's like
Like a badge of honor.
I was
Yeah.
the words are right out of my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rocks.
And back to your question, I'd say 70 to 80% of
Yeah.
the consciousness is about music. I'd say
Amazing. What an amazing gift.
I'm grateful, very
Yeah.
grateful.
I feel like going back to the solitude also has like a part to play in that, like where you can go at it for hours on end or where
Yeah.
you can dedicate yourself because what else would you be doing
Yeah.
if you're in the moment of solitude? Like I know growing up, I didn't really have many friends and wasn't really allowed to go out much and only really saw them in school. So it was like, okay, I'm in my room all day. What am I going to do? You're going to dedicate yourself to what you like to do.
Do you ever find yourself like peeved by other people's presence if
Yes.
they interrupt your work?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. And even times like I have to stop myself because I notice like my fiance would go out all the time and he's like, you should come with. And I'm like, no, I want to work on this. And I notice I'm missing out on so many moments because I want to also, my brain is just wired to just dedicate myself to this one thing.
Yeah.
And it's
You're not
so
missing.
hard.
Don't sell into the idea that you're missing out on anything. Like just what you're focusing on that's the thing. You know what I mean?
I know, but as a kid, it's like I was so shy and like so locked away. But now as an adult, like I have more freedom and I can do more things and I want to experience more things. Like just recently, I learned how to skateboard, and I was so terrified as a kid. So I can shred. I'm not a pro, but I can at least like ride comfortably and do okay turns. Can I do tricks? Hell no.
Skateboarding is definitely one of those things where if you don't do it at all or you don't do it often, you get on a skateboard and you're like, oh, I definitely underappreciated how amazing these people are. The fact that like just riding on a skateboard is hard enough. And then you look at what they can do. I feel the same way about music. I feel the same way about culinary arts. Like if you're not into something and you're not spending all of your time on it, it's so easy for other people to have it in their head that this is easy. But it's because they didn't they didn't put themselves out there. They didn't take the risk. And a lot of times it's the people who are going out and having fun all the time that aren't taking the risks to be able to understand how vulnerable you have to be to try to be good at something.
Yeah.
You know, because you've got to put yourself out there all the time. You got to step up on stages that you know make you really nervous to be there, but you keep volunteering to do it because you know that nobody's going to see your craft unless you get it out there in that way. Unless you go to every farmer's market that you can, unless you get a food truck, unless you keep that progress going, you know, what is your signature, what is, you know, your way for people to be able to feel you doesn't get felt unless you make sure that you take those next steps, you know?
I just got a note here. I give you guys so much credit because I tried learning to play an instrument. Oh my God.
Well, I've tried to learn how to
It's all
cook.
about
So
What'd you say, Oliver?
I said I've tried to learn how to cook.
Yeah, different art.
It is I imagine it's a very difficult art because you only know the end result at the very end. While playing drums is like, you know, you mess up, okay, let me go back and retry the beat.
Yeah.
But with making food, you spend hours on something and then you're like, no, it should have been this slightly different. And I'm sure that's
I feel like there's
holy
also like
shit.
so many levels because there's easier instruments and there's more
That is true.
difficult instruments. Granted, the one I tried to learn was a bit more
What
what
would you?
saxophone.
Oh,
I
a good one.
really
Sorry,
let
wanted
me
to
down,
learn
dude.
sax because
Yeah.
my childhood friend, we grew up together and he was like a pro at it. And I was like, I could do it better.
Awesome.
No.
Sax is very hard.
yeah.
It was that. And I know you need like
I don't got that.
the way they taught us in school was like they gave us like a piece of paper and they're like, if your pinky and thumb can reach a certain length, you can play it. And mine didn't reach. And they were like, well, you can't play this. And I'm like, I'm going to try it anyway.
You're like,
I
note
can't.
to self, no one can tell me that I can't do anything.
Yes.
I'm going to get to this eventually.
I'm going to do this. Try this. No.
You know what strikes me? I was thinking as you were saying, and actually as you and Oliver were going back and forth, that one of the things that seems like would be a connection between music and culinary arts is the idea that the foundation of it is there is a foundation to learning it. You know, there's chords, there's a rhythm, there are recipes, there are things that you need to learn. But really, when you start getting sophisticated and you start really, you know, kind of raising your game, a lot of it must also be on education of the past.
Yeah.
You know, so like what have other people done to make, you know, what are the foods that are available to me? What are the recipes that I can go from? Who are the pioneers who have tried different things and put things in different places? And I would imagine that's got to be true with jazz and music, where it's like, even if you want to make something original, you got to go back and understand the framework of what the, you know, what the people before you have done so that you can even understand how to baseline that and then figure out what you could contribute yourself by going even further.
There's this issue in modern jazz where there's always the new coming musicians and players who are trying to push the music forward and do what's never been done. But there's this argument that to push the music forward, you have to listen to what's been created and listen to the masters in order to actually find your own thing and build upon that instead of just making something out of nowhere. And with the recipes thing, if we didn't have recipes, we wouldn't be as good at cooking because it's a document of what works. And to me, in jazz, the recordings are a document of what works.
Yeah. And will you correct me if I'm wrong? Because this is like really an area where I don't know very much about it. Because I have only in the last year and a half have I started to try to learn how to cook, and it's been like HelloFresh kind of pathetic, type of stuff we're talking about here. But as far as I understand, cooking and baking are two different crafts,
Yes.
and that baking is all about precision, and cooking is all about creativity. And so it's like you can take somebody's recipe in cooking and you could add your own spices and your own kind of stuff to kind of make it your own. But baking is so specifically like if you don't do
Baking
exactly
is
this
like-
at exactly
It's
this
gonna-
amount of time, at
Yeah, yeah.
exactly this temperature, it just doesn't turn into whatever you want it to turn into.
In a way, like you have to be good at science to be good at baking.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up
Baking
the word
itself-
science.
Yeah, baking itself is its own chemistry.
Mhm.
So like recently I just made like a gluten-free vegan cake and oh my god, the crash out I had making that thing. 3 separate trips to the store because just one little mess up just for whatever reason I made caramel in my oven. Don't know how I did it.
So do you have a high
My
degree of
God.
patience? Do you have a high degree of resilience? What do you think it is that allows you to have a craft where it's like one small mistake and all of this time that you invested is now completely lost? Whereas you could take something, I think, Oliver, what you were saying too was in music, you could make a mistake, keep going, and then reflect on the mistake later and hope that you could course correct yourself. But you don't need to go, you didn't lose the whole session of
Yeah.
whatever it was that you were doing, which is unique to your craft for sure.
It definitely, yeah.
I would get frustrated if I was you. I can't imagine. I mean, like,
Especially, like,
I've baked in the past, but like, it happens where if you mess up afterwards, you're thinking like, was it too much baking powder? Was it too much of this? Like, did I put it on the pan the wrong way? Like, there's a lot of it's like its own laboratory in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I gotta say, compared cooking to baking, it is also the messiest.
Yeah.
So when like obviously like I messed up on the cake, I have to run to the store again. My sink is full of dishes. It's a mess. My cat's running around in flour. Like
Awesome.
there's just so much going on, and honestly, it just takes a ton of patience and sometimes sleepless nights. Like I finished that cake at 1 a.m.
Whoa,
Nice.
that's dedication.
Yeah, so it's the dedication, it's the patience, and then it's just also having a good understanding of knowing like how did I mess this up? Okay, now I know how I messed this up. How can I move forward in the second like part 2 of remaking this?
So in all of your crafts, so music and culinary arts, do you think that you've learned more up until this point from your losses or from your wins?
Losses completely. Yeah.
And can you explain like what do those losses, how do you handle a loss? And then how do you turn it into a win for you in the future? Like what's that process that you have to go through within your craft?
A lot of reevaluation.
A lot of evaluation, just self-awareness kind of. Like more recently I've been conscious about recording myself when I play. Like when I've been playing with other people, I need to record myself because that's the only way I can really accurately hear after what it sounded like. And if I hear myself back and I have a feeling of, ooh, I didn't like that, I need to search whatever that feeling was and then dig into how can I play something next time that removes that feeling. Because to me, a lot about
Incredible.
like playing music is you play something and it either leaves you feeling weak or powerful.
Yeah.
And I need to chase more of those powerful feelings where the technique and the sound I'm hearing is what I envision myself to be.
Can we pause for 1 second and just acknowledge what a profound thing it is that you just said? If you can take exactly what you just said and also apply it to the way that you live, that all of us live our lives, where it's like every time we run into something that gives us the ich and we evaluate it and we're like, okay, did I cause this or did I put myself in an environment where somebody else created that for me? Do I not go back into that environment again to avoid the ick, or do I change a behavior that I have to make sure that the ick doesn't show up again? I mean, the skills that you're learning and the way that you're doing music, it was profound what you just said, but it's profoundly connected to everything that you can do at every aspect of your life. It's not just a music thing.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
I've thought about just like, if you think about any moment in your life, it's almost, you can get that feeling. It's either it's obviously not black and white, like you feel bad in this moment, you feel good, but it's almost like a test for where you are
Yeah.
in a way.
I believe it's your intuition, right? So, like, as you're doing something, your intuition is hopefully constantly telling you where the balance is between your mind and your body.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as soon as that becomes imbalanced, it's like, ugh.
I need
And
to
then you gotta be like, all right.
Yeah, sign to change or
Right. So
something.
I would imagine that that's really profound when you're in rhythm.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
if you're in rhythm, everything feels balanced. I'm making this up as I go, right? Because I don't know enough about music to get this right. But I would guess that it's like you feel like everything is in balance,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, if you hear one sound that's imbalanced, you're like,
Yeah,
"Ugh,
you're
what
right.
the heck?"
Well, it's I guess it kind of depends, at least from my perspective, because a lot of times with music and, solos and jazz, if you play a wrong note, it is really how you resolve it. You can play a wrong note, you can play a weird freaking note that makes no sense there, but then you move it down this amount of time or
half
up,
step or something.
it'll sound right all of a sudden, and then it's totally fine. That's where pitched instruments can be very forgiving. With drums, though, if you mess up a rhythm, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. Well,
It's just kind of out of it.
I found that with jazz and just music in general, that rhythm is more important than the note because, so like the word key means like say you're in the key of C. It's just like a set of notes that you're in that feels natural. This bass player Victor Wooten said that people don't dance to keys. They don't dance to notes. They dance to the rhythm. And if the rhythm's off, like you said, it is more of a glaring thing. Like, yeah,
You just
Victor Wooten is the greatest bass player
He's awesome.
alive.
I
right
love that
now.
guy.
He's
Really?
a freak.
yeah.
He,
Very
he, he works
philosophical
at
too.
Berkeley now as well.
Oh, really?
He's a freak. Yeah, I did a camp and he ran the camp.
Oh, that's
Oh,
sick.
it's so funny.
Did you
He
meet
gave
him?
us some hilarious advice about make your bed every morning. I was like, all right, cool, man.
He's somebody that would describe as holistic. Like
Yeah,
he
very
seems,
holistic.
like philosophically, musically, just he's got it all together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does.
But I do think people who get to the very top of what they do, what you find is that typically, if they're able to apply the process that they give to their craft to the other parts of their life, they start to be someone who feels balanced, as a human. And I think that that's part of why craft is so important. It's so critical that if we could allow everybody to be able to find something that they're as passionate about as the three of you, like that gives people real purpose. That gives people something to wake up for every day and to know that they are a contributor to this world.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually talk about how your craft can influence other parts of your life to be better. I've thought more about presence with music recently. I found that in the first however many years of practicing that I was practicing in the wrong way. Like I actually wasn't deliberately thinking about what I was doing wrong. But you can apply that in all areas of life where just as you go, you become aware of what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and a craft kind of helps you have that
Keep
set
the
of
score.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a basic principle out there. I got to be honest. I don't know how much I completely believe in this principle. There's a lot of social science that to me feels like it is intellectuals claiming that they know something that no one could possibly know, and that just in general irks me for whatever reason. But there is a relatively well-known rule by Malcolm Gladwell that 10,000 hours is universally known as being the amount of time that it would take to become an expert in something. That feels wildly too broad of a brush because I think some people it could be, you could have a lot less time on a guitar and all of a sudden you're doing masterful level guitar stuff that wouldn't, that somebody couldn't do even if they had started when they were 6.
Yeah.
Or maybe the person who started when they're 6 just didn't spend as much time as you have in the short amount of time, and you made up any lost time for practice. I don't know. There's a lot there, right? But the thing that I always find to be really interesting about all of these kinds of rules is that Malcolm Gladwell, and I'm so appreciative that he did, made it very famous that this 10,000 hours rule. But what I was always curious that no one was ever talking about is that rule applies equally to practicing poorly. So if you do something and you practice anything poorly for 10,000 hours, you're going to be a fucking lockdown master at being shitty at that thing, So
Perfect practice makes perfect.
But it's harder. It's almost harder to do that when you have a craft, because if you want to be good at playing something, you eventually will get to the point. If you want to be good at cooking something, you'll eventually get to the point where you become disappointed in yourself to the degree where you'll start to make those changes. You can't pursue something for long enough without getting to the point where you start to change. But real life is where it gets much more complicated, in that you can be having even sometimes subconscious bad behaviors that you're using every day of your life. And if you keep letting them perpetuate, you don't even realize that years down the road, you can become wildly expert at doing
Something
bad behaviors. And if you want to know whether that's true, talk to somebody who is much older and see how much they've reflected on those things and how much wisdom that's given them to be able to have the appropriate context for the life. And then also talk to somebody who's older who has allowed those behaviors to continue later and later and later into their life. And then ask them questions about how hard it would be for them to unravel that particular behavior. And you'll see that the time that you invest is it's arguably the most important thing that we can talk about, is how every day that you wake up, being conscientious about the way that every moment is spent in effort to make you excellent.
It's precious time.
It's all very, very precious time, but it's difficult to look at it that way, because sometimes in your life you feel like you have so much of it, and then other times in your life you know that it's slipping away from you. But it's all about how you've invested it in either of those directions.
It's something that you dedicate like blood, sweat, and tears to. So you just want it to be like always like in a positive way, always rewarding, but that's just not always the case. You're going to deal with the negatives.
And life can strip away some of like
or throw in
artistic juice.
hurdles that really like make you take a step back.
Yeah.
Well, you reacted to it immediately when I said, do you learn more from loss or, from losses or wins? And it looked like you immediately reacted to thinking like, no, when you're in your craft, losses teach you a lot. So tell us about what you learned from those losses.
It's more of like, I just draw. What is this? It keeps falling on me.
That's a clever
that's a
pad that we
fidget.
put there, because what we were finding is that some of the other podcasts, when people would move their microphone, it would hit the table. And it would make this like obnoxious, terrible sound for anybody listening.
Yeah.
Which,
cool.
by the way, this is an ongoing joke, but we know that we only have like 11 listeners right now, so none of them are probably all that upset about this sound. But to be Oliver, we're committed to doing 3,000 episodes, because we think 3,000 episodes will create a log of human conversation that we feel like could actually be impactful for people to be vulnerable, talk about who they are, get away from talking about our opinions and start talking about the way we think. Because that's so much more fascinating when you can understand somebody based on the way that they think rather than just kind of going into what they think. But anyways, let's get back to what you were saying about the losses and how does it affect you when you're in culinary arts?
I know, like, nowadays, especially with like doom scrolling and everything, everybody just wants to look through rose-colored glasses, and I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You need to be realistic. So I would just either like, kitchen nightmares is a thing. You can see like previous restaurant owners and what they've done and what not to do.
Yeah.
Or like owners even nowadays that you see in restaurants, like having too many things on your menu and how it can really mess up your restaurant, your crew. There's so many little mistakes that you don't think that really affect it as a whole. So aside from just just don't look at the world through rose-colored glasses, like really expose yourself to the negatives to like learn from those mistakes as well, even if you weren't the one to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been saying it over and over again, but I would, it's an interesting thing to explore what presence actually is. And arguably the one way that you could define presence is that it's a extreme form of emotional regulation. And it's where you've gotten yourself to the point where you are not allowing yourself to be at all concerned with your past. And you are not at all feeling anxious about your future. And for whatever reason, you've allowed yourself to bring your full focus to the moment that's happening right now. And that is the privilege of all privileges.
Presence,
the moment is the privilege of all privileges. It's, to be here with the three of you around this table, being able to feel each other.
I felt that, yeah.
It's a privilege.
I would describe it as just layman's. It's not even layman's terms. I don't know what that means, but it's you and the thing,
Mhm.
you and the thing. There's nothing else that's going on but you and the thing. And for me in jazz, that could be learning this specific lick that a player played or a tune or something. But when it's you and the thing, it seems like nothing can come between that.
Right,
Like,
which just makes a lot of sense why isolation was so important for you to be able to develop that loving relationship with that thing.
yeah, I can't have my brother walk in when I'm
Yeah.
practicing and just say hi.
Yeah.
It can't happen. It just
So
throws
like
it off.
the vibe that I'm getting is that you are an incredibly friendly person, unless your brother walks in the room while you're practicing, and then like
That is
that's
the
not
exception.
you
No.
on the other side.
Like my
and at that
expression,
point-
if you see my expression, like it doesn't happen a lot, but just like if I'm interrupted and then I can give a look to my family, like to the members of my family,
like
like
laser beam cut them in half. kind of-
exactly,
Yeah.
like laser look, like this is what I'm focusing on. Please just remove
Go
yourself.
And they
away.
know, and
Yeah.
they know how to leave you alone. And
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I think did we get to you on that kind of topic of losses versus wins, and where how losses affect you and the way that you approach your craft?
When you said that question, I wanted to say wins.
Mm.
Was
Yeah.
honestly my gut reaction.
That is the right
Go-
answer.
go with
then, 'cause
that.
You should
Yeah, no,
follow
yeah.
your
Yeah.
your intuition is telling you. So why did your intuition tell you wins?
In some ways I have no idea, but I do think, I think looking at losses is incredibly helpful and good. I also look at my successes, and those motivate me to continue that. Like, when my band plays a show and there's a really good turnout,
Mhm.
and we play really well, and like things are good, I feel good. I feel great.
Yep.
There's such a euphoria to it that I'm like, I want to keep booking shows. I want to chase that feeling. So
That's a great dragon to chase, by the way.
Yeah.
Right?
Lots of dragons out there, but that one,
Yeah.
that one doesn't cost anybody else anything.
yes, it's only a win. Like, we're providing entertainment, and it's not just like, like silly entertainment. Well,
You
it
have
is
the
silly.
time of your life.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. There was a show he played a while ago, probably over a year ago now, at Beowulf Brewing, here in beautiful Amesbury, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Shout outs! I love Beowulf. I'm there all the time. But
We got to give
playing
you a
there.
job at the Chamber of Commerce. You
Oh,
had, you had
put
the
me
whole
right there.
Amesbury- Yeah, that's great.
Sign us all up.
Genuinely. But we played, and we had all of our friends there, and a lot of people I had never seen before, and it was amazing. At the very end, our singer Jet, first we always do an encore of Banana Man by Tally Hall, which is a very silly, goofy, dumb song. And we play, "Oh, do you see Banana Man?" Play the whole song. At the very end, crowd is screaming, and Jet just goes, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This banana's for you." And I don't know, for some reason it like stuck with me so much. I was like, I felt in that moment, my band can make it. I felt like I could make it
Because you were free,
because I felt free. I felt like this is it.
And just
like
the moment.
this is the goal. Yeah, this is what I want to chase. And that showed me it. That was the win.
Yeah.
So then when I felt that and I experienced that, I was like, okay, every single show from now on,
How
that
do I
is the
get that?
goal. Yeah. And, since then, honestly, I'd say 4 times. And that was
Yeah,
a year ago.
yeah.
4 times I've maybe reached that.
yeah.
And that's okay. But like, I know what that feeling is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to chase that. And I know how to experience that emotional feeling of just like, this is what I want. It's like, it's ego because it's like you're a star, you're on stage, you love the attention, but it's also like people love what I'm doing, and that's such a good feeling. And I get to play drums, I get to sing, I get to scream, I get to sing and do all these wonderful things, and people like it, and that is such a good feeling. And the win of that is so much more important to me than the loss of playing at a show where no one's there and things go poorly.
I think like I'm starting to change my opinion a bit because I think about listening back to something I've played that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
The wins can make you think, okay, what do I do in the future to chase that? And the losses make you think,
don't do that again.
Don't
Yeah.
do that again. What can I
Yeah.
improve upon?
Yeah.
But the wins are, I guess, in some circumstances, just as important because the wins are what keep you wanting to do the thing.
Right.
Like to me, in the beginning of playing music, like listening to myself and listening to replicating what somebody was playing, that was like, that's a win. I need to keep doing that, you know?
I think that we might all be doing something that this podcast is built for, which is touching truth, which feels like to me, because you had the courage to be able to have, to let your intuition answer that immediately. And we could see how all of our intuitions sort of respond to it. It feels like the truth between this is that it's kind of about balance.
Yeah.
It's about like having dedicated yourself to something so completely that you've been able to feel flow. And that you've been able to get into those moments where it was like it was happening, but it wasn't happening because you were forcing it. It was just happening because you were free, and the moment was coming to you, and you were in the moment. But then once you've had a taste of that dragon, then when you get a loss, you understand that loss has to reshape you, and you've got to have the courage to not get stuck, to not allow good enough to be good enough. You got to keep chasing excellence all the time to know that you're going to get back to that flow.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was really beautiful.
What you said, I thought was very profound about playing to nobody.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many jazz musicians out there, and it's just the truth. Like, I went to see, like a couple months ago, I went to see my guitar teacher play at one of his gigs. It was me, my girlfriend, and like 3 other people in the place. It's like almost sad to watch, but like I think jazz musicians have always dealt with, I'm playing to nobody. How can I still be okay with that kind of?
Yeah.
And jazz musicians, I'll just say this, they play for themselves. They don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, that is true.
When I'm playing, if I'm being honest, I do not care about the audience.
Yeah.
Like
It's a beautiful thing. So I don't like to whatever degree this is helpful to you guys. I've spent so much time concentrating on what is the mechanics of being able to think about your mindset. And I've talked about this on the podcast a couple times, maybe even on the episode that you came on to. But the most helpful thing that allowed me to kind of like advance the way that I was thinking about it was that I started to think about the mind and the body as being exact mirrors of each other. Because you can see so much of the way that the body works. There's so much evidence, there's so much science. But the basics of a body are that the body requires you to be able to take in calories, and then it needs to take those calories and turn it into fuel. And then you take that fuel and eventually it turns into movement. And the more you use that movement, the more likely it is that your body will become muscle memory to that movement and you'll be able to use it again.
Yeah.
The way that I think that the mind correlates with that is that where the body requires calories, the mind is requiring information. And it's consuming whatever information you put in front of it at any given time. So if you're playing music, that's what you're giving it to be able to do. If you're talking to friends, that's what it's consuming. If you're watching the news, that's the calories that you're consuming.
Add calories there.
It's like the Tyrion Lannister quote.
Oh, what is it?
Ooh.
love
A sword
Game of
is a
Thrones.
whetstone like a mind
Yes.
book. Or,
Yeah.
That's probably a paraphrase.
love
right
Game of
there.
Thrones,
But
yeah.
it's true. And,
Oh, yes.
not just a book, but it is true. Your
Yeah.
mind does require information to stay not only like a participating member of society and informed, but it
Doesn't even appear, at least to me, like I can only speak from my mind, but I'm assuming that because I believe that we're all equals, that your minds were that we're similar, even if it's not the same, right?
Yeah.
That we would be able to get to a similar spot. But it looks like the next thing that the mind has to do is it has to take that information, those calories, and it has to convert it to decision making.
Yeah.
Because that's where the energy comes from, is your ability to be able to go left or go right. Like keep making these decisions all the time. And scientifically, they're saying you make somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 decisions a day. So if that gives you any idea of the magnitude of the way that your mind is working all the time. But then the last piece of it is communication. How do you choose to be able to communicate, whatever that is? But once I started thinking about the body and the mind as these two parallels, it starts to be able to give you a different insight in the way that you can think about mindset. And from all the work that I've done, the deepest conclusion that I've been able to come to is the two things that really prohibit somebody from being able to reach a mindset that really allows them to get to their best outcomes is the first one would be that whatever outcome you have in your life right now, that you're still holding on to the idea that that outcome is tied to someone else, that it's someone else's fault that you haven't achieved what you want to, or that it's somebody, or, that for whatever reason, you haven't taken full and complete accountability for the results of your life. And then the second one would be that you, for whatever reason, are still holding on to a belief system that makes you feel like someone else is going to tell you that you're enough, that you haven't figured out that the fact that you draw a breath makes you enough.
Yeah.
That's it, that you don't need anything else, that you are alive, you have a consciousness, and you have something to contribute because you're special.
That's good.
If you can't get to those two places, the challenge is that you invent all these little versions of those two things, right? So you're like, endlessly, you can go down rabbit holes of figuring out why whatever your outcome is somebody else's fault. Endlessly.
Yeah.
Endlessly, you can go down rabbit holes as to why you don't feel the way that you wish you could feel because somebody else isn't making you feel that way. But once you take control of those two things in your mind, all of a sudden it gives you way more opportunity to figure out where you can go with that and how you can use that to your advantage. And I'm sure that in that way, like getting our minds to be able to completely be in tune with our bodies, that balance that everybody's looking for is also what unlocks our craft.
Yeah. The mind is a muscle in a sense. And I've tried to do this thing with my practicing recently where the hardest thing I have to work on is in the morning, because I've just read that in the morning your brain is the most primed to learn stuff. And you talked about decision making. Like, by the time your day is over, your brain is fried with decisions. So ideally, I want to leave improv for the last part of the day because you want to allow for no decision making, no thinking. Just it happens. But honestly, at the end of the day, I don't want to practice as much because my brain is already fried. Like, do I want to practice or like? And I just decide no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what an amazing architecture that you're setting up that allows you to be able to think through it that way, because like not every day has to be the day.
Yeah.
Some days are just like, you didn't get
I
enough
just got to
sleep.
get through today.
Yeah, I just got to get through today. And that's
true.
okay too. You know what I mean? Like nobody who's trying to get better at a craft is is hitting that mark every single day. But the key is, and I believe that this is kind of the key to life, is am I better today than I was yesterday?
Yep.
And maybe even more importantly, if I get better today, will I be better tomorrow? And if I keep doing that over and over again, how good can I actually be?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like as many days as we have on this planet is how good we can actually get. That seems like the obvious answer,
I like
right?
that. Yeah.
Ooh.
Limitless.
I mean, limitless. I don't know, but you have to also bring it every day. To some degree, you have to be like, no, tomorrow today I'm going to strive to be better. So tomorrow I will be better. And that will never end. I will never be what I want to be completely until I draw my last breath. That's
That's hard to
good
do
as
though.
gonna get.
I do think progress is not linear always. Not even just with like, your craft and whatever, but like, just with life, it's like you wake up one day and you're like, all right, this is the day, and then you get dumped or something and you're freaking miserable or something. And then for months and on, you go down and down, you just stop practicing, you stop writing, you stop doing all these things. And then maybe one day you're like, all right, fuck that. I'm going to, work on some things and finally get better.
Yep.
And find your craft again, whatever. So, but then with that, it's like you also are learning
Through the
right?
bad stuff.
Through the bad things, and that's kind of how losses are good in many ways. So I don't know.
I will say this, so I've been through 2 divorces, and not, like I don't believe that there is versions of trauma that you go through that's like, this is your trauma. This is your experience. This is what you've gone through and the way that feels for you. But if you have gone through that stuff, what you start to figure out is that if you're going to take a loss, you sure as shit better turn it into a lesson.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to take the loss again.
Yep. Yeah.
And if you allow that to repeat, shame on us for not recognizing that every time we're handed a loss, it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reevaluate what happened in that particular situation that was not where you wish you would have been.
Mm.
And there is no way to avoid the pain. You just gotta lean into it. And then the pain becomes you, and you have to go through a death of an identity that becomes the rebirth of whoever you want to become on the other side. And I personally think that I've probably been through 4, maybe 5 complete deaths of my identity and complete rebirths of the way that I identify myself. And every time that I've done it, I have less beliefs, not more. I have less identity every single
Yeah.
time. I believe in less things, and I have less things that I want to attach to how I see myself. And I want to strive more and more to just be myself.
It's like the idea of the phoenix, I think, and what I'm hearing from you is just like you have to die in some senses to
Be
like-
reborn again.
exactly
Yeah,
like
well-
a snake shedding its skin.
You got to remind yourself what you built, and then you have to reevaluate whether what you built was actually what you want. And anytime you take a real loss, the obvious answer to that is probably not. Otherwise, you wouldn't have
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
sometimes it's very complicated if you're dealing with something that was incredibly unfair to you, a betrayal, something like that. You can get very stuck in the idea of like, well, it's not me. It's not, I didn't do anything. And you're like, eventually you get to the point where you're like, but I made all the decisions that allowed that
Yeah.
to get to that point.
Yeah.
And at any of those decisions, I could have made a different decision. And that's what I got to figure out next.
Yep.
Where did I miss it early enough to make sure that it didn't have the ripple effect? And so the next time I'm completely prepared for that decision up front. You know what I mean?
I always
Yeah.
think that like you want to go?
No.
Okay.
I was just saying,
Uh,
yeah.
The common denominator in any situation is you.
Yes.
Like, yes, of course, like, there's no denying that, like, people can wrong you and stuff, but you can come back from any situation better upon realizing what your relation was to it, you know? It's complex, though. It's just,
It's complex in that it requires all of us to do something for ourselves that we have a hard time doing for others, which is that even if you have been victimized, you have to learn how to forgive yourself for whatever reason that ended up happening.
Yeah.
And then you have to hold yourself accountable to never living as a victim. Because there is nothing that you gain when you feel sorry for yourself. It only becomes a ripple effect of how those negative feelings, that ich that goes along with feeling sorry for yourself, only becomes perpetually bigger the longer you allow yourself to stay in that framework. But you also have to be forgiving to yourself to understand that, like, you've got to love yourself in that moment to be able to know, okay, this happened. I can evaluate it. I don't want it to happen again, which means I need to be honest about it. But now I can't be the victim of that anymore. I need to take ownership of the fact that it happened because of me, and now I need to move forward. I don't want to act, guys, I want to be very clear. Like, I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm doing my absolute best to apply this every day. But this is the kind of stuff that you may never, none of us may ever master this. But it's like, at least if we open up the conversation, we can bring it into our conscious mind rather than allow it to stay as a subconscious pattern that we don't even recognize is happening all the time.
yeah. I think to me, it's important about whatever happens in your life to take the next step as soon as you can, because it's action that propels you forward. And
Yeah.
anything bad, like if I have a bad day or something, it's just tomorrow is
Yeah.
moving forward.
I try to stay down until my intuition is awake again.
Yeah. That's
And sometimes you have to be sad alone for as long as you need to until you become realigned with your intuition. And then as soon as your intuition is back in check and back online, then but sometimes you gotta, sometimes you just gotta cry it out for
You
a
have to
couple
wallow
days. And
sometimes.
You gotta just let it out.
Yeah, you gotta let it out.
I would agree with that for sure. It takes a while, and that's why I think art is also so important too, being sad and
Therapeutic.
emotional, and that doesn't really show with jazz, but it shows with like other music as well and other different art forms. Oh yeah, no, jazz can be sad for sure, but it's
lyrics help.
lyrics very
help
much
a
help.
lot.
Yeah, I think it is a good thing to be sad sometimes. It really is.
It reminds you you're human.
Reminds you
Exactly.
you're human. It lets you see that that progress is not linear, lets you feel things. And sadness is, I think, negative emotions are much more easy to see and feel compared to happy emotions,
Yeah.
because when you're happy, you're not really very conscious of it.
Right.
When you're
Yeah.
sad, you're thinking, I am sad. Do feel like a victim.
You're
usually.
engulfed by it almost.
You're
like,
yeah,
It's
you're
easy,
engulfed
it's
by
easy
it.
to doubt yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the easiest analogy for this, and I try to use this as often as I can, is it's as if everybody knows this experience. When you have the flu, there's nothing but the flu.
Yes.
just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
flu.
Yeah.
That is,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
and you are so unbelievably in the moment of feeling like shit that you can't even imagine what it would feel like to not have the flu.
Yeah.
And then the 2 or 3 days after the flu has subsided, you're like, hallelujah.
Like the
Yeah.
skies open up.
Lord Almighty.
is so beautiful.
Exactly. Like, how did I ever live without understanding that I'm not sick?
Yes.
This is unbelievable. But it's difficult to hold on to that for long periods of time. But it's great to remind ourselves every once in a while that you can always go back to that in the same way that we always start with a breath, right? In the beginning of this, because the breath is the ultimate expression of the difference between a subconscious behavior and a conscious behavior. You don't have to think about breathing, but when you think about breathing,
You think
right?
Yeah.
You don't have to think about having the flu all the time, but when you think about having the flu and you compare that to how you feel right now sitting around this table, it's a gift. And we can remind ourselves of that if we give ourselves the proper tools to be able to do it.
That's good perspective. I feel like that ties into gratitude a lot. I wanted to talk about art as therapy, or just craft as therapy. Like, I'm sure you as a cook get a lot of release from your life just by creating dishes and stuff.
It's
And
not
like,
even just that. Like, it's also good to have other ways to release it. Because, like, as great as I love to cook all the time, I love having other outlets. So I'm not just like in a kitchen the
yeah, no,
entire
you
time.
actually do want to escape the kitchen sometimes, because it can probably, I'm assuming, create negative emotions sometimes.
That too. It can create a lot of negative emotions and a lot of crash outs from messing up. So I
Crash out's
need-
a great modern term.
Crash outs are great.
punch
So
and
so I need other outlets. So as I said, I will start dancing. I will start singing. I will draw. I have a ton of animals, so I'll just go bother them.
One of the
Drums
things-
is yeah, Oliver, you go ahead. You
Voice
haven't
of
spoken.
God, our Lord and Savior.
All right. I was just going to say that I think one of the things about music therapeutically, in terms of listening to music and consuming other people's art, is that it allows you access to a very specific kind of empathy in a way that you can get specific validation for whatever feeling you're having. Like, oh my God, this is actually completely normal. And not only is it completely normal, but this person is clearly expressing the exact same thing, and they're happy to share that to the world, and they're going to sing about that and put that out there, and it just is really I think cool, because I know I have certain songs where, you know, whatever the very specific emotions that you're feeling, whether you're frustrated or angry, or you're feeling triumphant or depressed or whatever it is, that you can create a catalog of your own sort of like empathy, where people are willing to have shared that part of yourself and made it accessible so that you can tap into that when you need it.
I like the word catalog. It's just what were you gonna say, Oliver? Nice,
No,
nice,
you-
Oliver L. That was great.
Yeah, Oliver L,
There-
Mr. Looker, rocked.
Oliver 1 and Oliver
Oliver 1, Oliver 2.
I can't believe that that's the first time you've talked during this whole conversation. Because
Crazy
like
word.
legitimately,
The restraint.
I mean, I'm getting the feel from the two of you that you might love music as much as he does. But I've never in my life have I ever known anybody who loves music as much as Oliver.
Yeah.
Like up until this point, I've never known anybody. Even when I first met him, you talked about it earlier, but you guys found that envelope. He came in. He was the only one that's here. We sat down and talked for like 4 hours, and we had this really great conversation. The entire time, his head was just sort of moving to a beat that was not happening in the room. And I was just talking to Oliver, and every part of his body was like in music and talking to me simultaneously. It was like, that's a weird thing you're doing, Oliver, but I kind of dig it. I don't know what's happening
It's
right
like a
now.
lifestyle thing, maybe. I don't know. Like just
He's
when the
just vibing.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, if we're going to talk about some music therapy stuff.
Elliot Smith.
Yeah, I was about to say if we're gonna go there.
Yeah.
Can I go pee real quick?
Of course,
Can I
let's take a break.
Can I
Yeah,
text
yeah,
sprint?
yeah. You
Absolutely.
go first.
I go first. We
There's
can all
two
take
bathrooms
turns.
out there, so you guys, if we want to
Oh,
take a break right
hell
now,
I want to
you
use
guys-
both though.
I'm good.
How dare you?
Yeah, I like
Listen,
to
if you
use
saw
one
how far
part.
away they are.
Yeah.
that would be
No,
amazing.
that's very
would
mean.
be
You go
amazing.
into the abyss.
We are now pausing.
For our 11 podcast listeners, welcome back to the from the break that we just took. To jump back into that conversation though, because I want to make sure that we it's one of the things about Oliver that's been really amazing to be able to work with on a regular basis is that I think Oliver, you can tell me if this is true on your end too, but I think one of the ways that him and I have learned how to communicate with each other is that we never angle anything. We always come to each other with exactly what it is that we're thinking, and we just try to figure out if there's a difference between what we're thinking, how we bridge the gap between those two places.
Yeah.
And I would imagine in your friend group that you guys have created, that's got to be one of your special talents as a group, is that you're not trying to find some way to look some way to everybody else. You're just trying to tell it the way that it is to the best of your ability. That is extremely admirable, and it is going to be something that's going to serve you not only in friendships, but also intimate relationships are so much better when you can have your partner who you can just be 100% with. You know what I mean? Where there's like no difference between what you think and what you say.
Yep.
There's
'Cause
just like
it's-
no filter.
Yeah.
As soon as, sometimes there needs to be a kindness filter where you need
Yes.
to be able to say, like, I'm having a feeling that might be coming from me. I might be having a moment right now, and I don't need to take that out on you. So let me slow down here and make sure that
Yeah.
this isn't my feeling that I'm reinterpreting as a feeling that you've given to me. But on the other end, sometimes it's even more important to just be like, whoa, before it even gets to a tension place, just be like, I'm having a feeling. Is there any way that you can just like see me for having a feeling right now? And then we can just move past that, because it's just like, I know it's going to go, but right now I'm stuck. And I feel like it's going
Yeah.
to be something that we're going to have to, that could escalate. All of those things are so helpful when you learn how to find that language at that level.
One of the things that's tough with dealing with people is how do I find the right balance between I don't want to infringe on this other person by, I want to make sure I'm careful with my words and what I'm saying to them to not make them feel bad, while also being stern in what I'm saying. Like, this is my truth. How do I bridge that gap? It's always tough.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't think that anyone can answer that question definitively, because I think that it's like the difference between science and art. You know what I mean? There's a science to the way that we can think about language, but then there's your unique art that you need to find, which I would also argue is you. So we talked about it earlier that there's your mind and then there's your body. But I think that, for me at least, I think that there's my mind, there's my body, and then there's me. And I try to be way more interested in me than I am my mind or my body. I'm interested in both of those, but the mystery of whatever the third thing is fascinating, and trying to know more about that. And I think that that's that uniqueness that everybody has to kind of tap into. But language is an excellent way to do that. To answer your question to the best of my ability, though, here's how I would say that you can get close to it, which is that first and foremost, you always, always concentrate on telling the truth to the highest degree that you can possibly do. And then I would say the second one, and maybe this should even be the first thing and the truth should be second, which is that you always focus on making your actions align with your intentions. So if you know that you don't have bad intentions for people, if that was one of the things about this podcast, is that we knew that we were going to ask people to come in and have vulnerable conversations.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had to do a lot of work to make sure that I don't have any intentions in putting anybody into a gotcha moment.
Yeah.
I only want everybody to leave here feeling great about yourselves and feeling great about the contribution you made. But I really had to check myself and be like, if there's any part of me that's looking to get in here and try to manipulate the moment to make myself look good, to make you look bad, this is not, I can't do this. I got to slow down. But I think I did the work to make sure that I came into this experience with 100% understanding that my intentions are not that. So if anybody doesn't like my truth, it's nothing I can do about it. You know what I mean? I gotta deal with that, and then I gotta deal with it in the moment, and we gotta figure out, why do we disagree with each other, and maybe I'm wrong, and then I gotta change. It happened to me the other day in a podcast we were getting a little bit deeper into, what you do in trauma situations. And I said the phrase, hurt people.
Mm.
And it was a quick thing that I have said many times. But somebody at in the podcast said, wait a second, like that's not complex enough. There's a lot more to that. Like hurt people don't always hurt people. Sometimes hurt people figure out that the person who hurt them, was wrong, and it inspires them to change their whole life and do something differently. And then they end up being really good to people. And I thought, 100% right. I was lazy with my language. I reduced something to a simple phrase that is extremely complex.
If they didn't speak up.
We had
Yeah.
right. But another response that I could have had would have been to be extremely defensive, that was like part of that line is true, because it is true that hurt people that do not address their hurt end up likely hurting someone else,
true.
right? So the laziness of my language was unaddressed trauma tends to turn into future trauma.
Yeah.
But that little nuance did not give so many people credit for the work that they did to
Overcome.
Yeah.
Right. So it really made a
Very
difference,
true.
and I really appreciated that she pointed out that nuance to the language, because I don't think that I'll forget it moving forward. I think from now on, for the 3,000 podcasts that we try to do, that will be one more thing that's now stuck in my consciousness as how to be a little bit more specific to make that work.
Mm.
How do you guys feel about moving on to question 2, which would start with you, Reem?
That'd be cool.
We're actually
This
is so
quite a bit beyond the 1 hour mark.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
I need to check the time. Holy crap.
Ooh, that was
That's
nice.
cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool how fast that goes?
Especially, it's just, that's
Like,
flow.
cool.
Mhm.
Okay.
Great catch over there, by the way. I really flung that thing.
Yeah,
at
that was
you.
really
Okay.
impressive.
That
I
was
really,
that was not an aggressive fling, but you handled it really well.
Thanks. I played softball. I was a good catcher.
Okay.
Um,
Tap dancing and softball.
Oh
I
my
did a
gosh. I didn't know you
lot.
could do those two things.
I did
Together.
tennis. I did softball. I did basketball. I did everything. Anyway.
Wow. Okay.
How does your craft influence the way you live today? Ooh. Spicy.
Um,
Well, listen, for you, this has got to be an interesting one for you, because you are like pink hair, 100% yourself.
Yeah.
You are like, if I saw you walking down the street, I'd be like, that dude is definitely in a band.
Yeah,
it's so
I
true.
think
Guy
after
is
this,
100% committed to his
Yeah.
craft and to what he wants to do. So good for you. You embody what it is to like be putting yourself all the way out there for what you believe in, and I believe in that. That is awesome.
Heck yeah.
yeah,
It's-
I think
well-
after this, I'm gonna go back to my pink hair so we can.
hell yeah, dude.
We could do we could do a follow-up podcast, and you
We're
all
all
could have
pink.
pink
We're
hair.
all
Yeah.
collectively one pink.
I miss my pink hair.
I'm gonna stick with the jacket as my contribution to that.
Yeah.
but, I like your hair ideas.
All right. Well, for starters, well, I appreciate that. I do think I struggle to be myself in many ways. So, like for example, I was in a relationship for 5 years,
Mhm.
and I that ended back in December of 25. And I have no ill will at all towards this person. Like they'll always be a friend, and I love them truly. But they were definitely like, "Hey, don't you fucking dye your hair," and things like that. And I understand that to a degree, but this has always been me. And to add on to that, I do think that relates to my own craft, because while I am a drummer, I do think I am a musician first. And being a musician, one sec,
Need a sippy sip.
needle my little sippy sip, has a lot to it. And before we went to the pee break there, we started to touch on Elliott Smith, who is my favorite musician of all time. He was a songwriter who taught me a lot and helped me through a lot of difficult times. Because I was coming from the background of a drummer, and that be like a punk drummer, especially, like I'm playing Clash songs with my dad. and I never realized that while it is amazing to have a crowd be screaming and moshing and dancing and all these things, it is equally as amazing to have a crowd be dead silent.
Yes.
Not, you can hear a raindrop, you can hear everything. And that's what Elliott Smith taught me watching videos of him playing live and hearing his music. He was a prolific, beautiful songwriter who died far too young. So with that, that taught me a lot about songwriting and how your art can help you, and how it's okay to be sad, and how it's okay to just fucking feel things,
Yep.
be you, and all these different things. And then I only dyed my hair pink 2 days ago. But it is me. Like, I've wanted to do it for a while now again. And
Can you explain? So when you say it is me, it's a really interesting thing to break down for all of us, right? Because there's a part of our identity that is visual that we have to be able to kind of accept, right? And then there is, how do we tie it into our identity, right? So when you say the pink hair is you, how do you know that? Where is it in your intuition that's telling you, like, man, this feels like a total expression of what I need people to see when they're looking at me?
it is a statement. So when I first did it, when I very first did it back in high school,
Was that blue?
I did pink first.
Oh, really?
And then I also did blue.
I think I met you when it was blue.
You met me when
Yeah,
when it was blue, and then I also did white, and I did a few different colors.
Yeah.
But especially then, I wasn't as I was still very politically charged, and I understood a lot of those things as how I was raised. But I didn't understand the full consequences because I was a child. If someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, fuck you, you have pink hair," I can go, "Hey, I'm 16.
Yeah.
You're in trouble." But now as a 22-year-old, there's a lot of,
Do people do that? Do they walk up to you and talk to you that way just because your hair?
No. We'll find out, I guess.
Find out.
But I was very worried about that. And, I had a lot of that in high school. Or not a lot of it. It's not more in middle school. I had, people call me, mean names, the F slur and all these other things. It's just I'm bisexual, get the fuck over it. It's not that big a deal, etc. But as an adult, especially in a very politically charged time,
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure, and I understood that with pink hair, and I went to Market Basket.
Nice.
And I went with a friend who is transgender, my coworker, Maddie. She rocks, transgender, and she has a beard. So it's you already know what you're getting in for. There will be looks. And she even told me, it's it'll be funny. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But I was worried, and I'm walking down Market Basket, with my mozzarella sticks. And
Important detail.
Yeah, it is.
Detail.
I had my mozzarella sticks and my
All
bag
that
of chicken
matters.
wings. So that was my lunch for the day at work.
Okay.
You get the
And I-
green
and I-
ones?
What was that? What was that?
You getting the green ones? The ones that
The green ones?
in the green box. I'm just wondering if we're buying the same
You're being
mozzarella.
real
sticks.
specific.
Yeah,
No, they were-
green mozzarella sticks.
they were
Is a
the-
weird way to jump in on that.
Well, no, they were the I'm thinking of
Fridays.
no, I'm thinking of
Word.
no, I didn't mean mozzarella sticks. I meant the string
Oh,
cheese
okay.
mozzarella.
Never mind.
I'm being
Yeah,
dumb. I'm being dumb. That was on me.
Never mind. Okay, sorry.
No, but you're right though. The green, the green box of mozzarella sticks. I do know what you're talking about, but I also get Fridays as well. Whenever now I want to talk
When I
about.
want to treat
Wouldn't it
myself.
be amazing if the number one clip that came from this podcast was just mozzarella sticks? Everybody just went wild, and Super Stop Shop sold out of this particular thing.
Oh my god, yes.
This is what blew up. But I was walking and I see this guy, and he had a hat with a patch, or where you could put a patch. And you have your own prejudice, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm so worried that I don't want this guy to say something. I could tell he was looking at me. He had a look to him.
Yeah.
And he walks by and he goes, "Cool fucking hair, man." And I was like, you know what? I'm the asshole.
Wait, was it genuine? What?
It was genuine.
He was. Yeah.
This guy was like, "Cool fucking hair."
Judged him before.
I judged
Yeah,
him
yeah.
before he and it kind of made me think I understand that this is a statement, but that statement doesn't always mean that someone's going to hate you or be aggressive. And you have to always look while you're making a statement, you have to recognize that people will have attention towards it.
Mhm.
It is part of me, and I am saying something. I'm saying I'm in a band.
Mm.
Like you said, like
Mhm.
you see this and you're thinking this guy's probably some fucking musician or artsy motherfucker, and that's cool and that's fair. It's true.
It looks like freedom.
It
Yeah.
does feel like
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah.
It does feel like it for me.
Yeah.
And I value it. It feels nice to like walk around and have this hair and be like, hey, look at this fucking hair.
Yeah.
Like, get over it.
Yeah.
Is the statement kind of like, here I am,
Mm.
I'm not thinking that I need to conform to what other people want me to be?
Yes. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah. It kind of feels like I want to do this because I like how it looks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how it feels. And I like it feels representative of me. And that is kind of it. Like, I do care what other people think, and I can feel their eyes, and it's uncomfortable sometimes. But like, it also, I want to be able to not care about it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is kind of the goal.
The interesting thing about other people's eyes too, that is so important to remember, is that whatever is coming from their eyes is telling you how they feel about themselves, and it tells you
Ooh.
nothing about how they feel about you.
Mhm.
Because we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, but it's I mean, we could break this down if anybody disagrees with this statement, but it doesn't look like people exhibit bad behaviors, bad looks, anything that is like a negative feeling towards someone else is always coming from a place of insecurity. No one who feels secure about themselves is at all concerned with what color your hair is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, and I don't even like, at worst, what you'd get from somebody who is secure is maybe just no look at all.
Yeah, that's
Or
true.
maybe just like, you should do a different shade.
Or
I don't
just
like that shade.
because part of having your hair be pink also has to be that you want people to see it,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? So, but on the other end of that, if somebody gives you that negative vibe, it's so helpful if you can just remember that it's like, oh, okay, my pink hair is just a mirror for the way you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
I get
reflection
it.
on them, not me.
Exactly. So as long as I feel good about myself while my hair is this color, that's the key that I've got to remember.
Yeah.
And everything else is just context about the way that that person is feeling about themselves.
Mm.
And sometimes if you can remember that, it also allows you to tap into compassion where the other person didn't have it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like it has to be an us and them. It can just be like, oh, I wish you could feel about my hair the way I feel about my
Yeah,
hair.
that's
That would
Yeah.
make you so much happier if you knew how good this makes me feel, and you could look in my mirror and you could feel that good.
Mm.
Yeah.
But that's just not the way that it works all the time when you're out there in the world, you know?
Yeah. And also with it, it's like when you, all right, I am a white guy. Believe it or not.
No way.
Sorry. For you audio listeners, I love you to
Hold
death,
on,
but I am white.
Another break.
Breaking news.
This is shocking. This is shocking. The pink hair had been distracting me the whole time. I didn't
I
see-
never looked at your skin.
I didn't
I
see
never
the
realized.
underlying part of this here.
But all right. I'm white.
I'm interested in what's next.
I'm white. I'm white. I am, male. And I live in currently, I live in Massachusetts. Like, I don't have much to worry about.
Mm,
You put
yeah.
pink hair on that, and that does give people a lot more insight into you. Like, if I walk around Market Basket with my normal hair or like normal brown hair, standardized haircut, it's like I don't have to worry about anything. And that's not even to say like negative or positive. That's just saying like in general. But you put pink hair on it, and then you do know people are looking, and that is a statement. So it was also for me for a while, and this is kind of why I've waited like 7 months to do this. Is do I want more eyes on me right now?
Mhm.
And I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm okay with that. I don't care. I love attention. like most people, I like
Yeah.
attention. I like being, or I guess not like most people, but like I do enjoy attention, and I enjoy being looked at. It's kind of cool. It's like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
people are noticing me, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Now with that, it's like you do have to understand that that's not always going to be a good thing. But I think most, and like you said, like I'd rather have compassion for those people. If someone looks at me as like you X, Y, and Z for having that hair, it's like You're just fucking jealous.
Yeah.
But I can validate that there is a concept of nature that does apply to what you're saying that, that is true, which is that if you take zebra, they are incredibly difficult to hunt because they all look so similar to each other. So it's not easy for like a pack of lions to be able to pick out which one they want to attack simultaneously.
Oh.
Because they can't take them down unless they're coordinated in which one they want to do, right? So the zebras have this natural ability, not necessarily to blend into their environment, but to blend into each other. So these lions don't know how to get coordinated enough to actually get just one of them. But what happens sometimes is if you go out and like they do this, like park rangers and stuff will take a red paintbrush and they'll paint just a red like brush along the back ass cheek of one of the
Or zebra.
zebras.
Oh my God.
And what they find is that like within a matter of very short amount of time, all the lions start to coordinate
Is that
on
ethical? That's
I was honestly
But
while you were
what I'm
saying, I
saying
was
is
wondering that.
when you stand out from the crowd, you become more obvious to the predators.
Yeah.
And so you just have to know that. I think that's why a lot of people tend to want to blend in so that they can avoid having to feel the energy of that predatory sort of stuff coming in your direction.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is like, you can't do amazing things if you blend in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't be extraordinary if you're like everybody else. They don't go together. If you're like everybody else, there is nothing extraordinary about that,
Yeah.
right? So you've got to make a decision. And I like the people who paint it on themselves. I like the people
Yeah.
who go out into the world and they're like, fucking bring it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if whatever reason you're out there looking for it, like let me make it more obvious for you in whatever way you want to.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's in your hair. Sometimes it can just be in your attitude. Sometimes it can be in the decisions that you make to do something that everybody else is telling you not to do, but your intuition is like, nah, this one I'm locked in on,
Yeah. I admire, like with you, Oliver, it's just there's part of the hair thing that's like, is part of it like a fuck you, like to other people? Like, do you ever think that? Like,
Yes and no. Like, I don't know. I go back and forth in like a weird way.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I am very angry right now with a lot of things and how our world is being treated and operated and by certain people in power and things like that. So when, sometimes I do want to be like, fuck you. But then it's also like, I do understand that, at the end of the day, when the dust settles here, there's only one way forward, and that's being like, you might not like the pink hair, but like I'd rather you try and understand why I like the pink hair.
yeah.
And that's okay. I don't. It has a lot of layers to it, and there's no right answer, I guess.
it sounded like you almost started to say something, but you said there's only one way forward. What do you think is the way forward?
Well,
Sippy sip
That's the
first.
way forward.
one little sippy sip forward.
Pinkies up.
Pinkies out. Pinkies out. Let me preface by saying I am not a always loving person. I have been hateful, and I have shown it, and I have said it, and I have told people, fuck you for what you believe in. And I honestly, I will stand by a lot of those fuck yous. But I do think the one way forward is love.
Mm.
And being able to sit down and talk and figuring it out. I had a very long conversation with my friend Grace, who did my hair. She dyed it all. Love you, Grace. Shout out, Grace. She's
Give me her number. 'Cause
they're-
honestly,
oh, yeah, I
like,
fully
I'm
will.
loving the hair right now.
dude, they rock. They're so cool. But we were like, bottle of tequila on my bed, just talking, and I recognized that if we could sit everyone down, and most people, I do think there are some lost causes.
Yeah.
If we could sit everyone down and be like, hey, this is why you're values and beliefs are
Misguided,
there
maybe.
and wrong, honestly,
Yeah.
like to a degree, wrong. And also, like, maybe this is why you believe in that and why you feel this way. And I've had these things happen in your life, and this is why you vote for this person or you believe in these things. Then we could find common ground. I've done it with people. I have had these discussions where I've turned people's political opinions, and it is such a euphoric like feeling, like honestly being like, so listen, man. Like, and then finding that it is nice. However, my sympathy has grown so short for this, especially at this time in our world where it's like so many people are threatened and like
Yeah.
genuinely very threatened, and it sucks and it's awful.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Just earlier, we talked about the concept, and I'm not saying that any of us have to believe this is true, but just the concept that your mind might be consuming information the same way that your body consumes calories. So if you think about all the people that are out there, and you think about the information that people are consuming, like if you think about, we did this last night as an experiment with David, and so it was interesting to get what their take on it was. But like, if you think about the news, what kind of calories do you think that those are? Do you think that that's
Food calories.
Yeah.
is that junk food? Is that is that healthy food from a foodie's perspective? Like, if you look at it from that side.
I think it does depend, especially on the news, which news you're watching. But I do think that there is a big spectrum of people that support specific things, and I think there are people that understand what they are supporting. They're like, okay, I know exactly what I am voting for and believe in, and I don't care because it does benefit me. And I've met people that like that are very single issue. People that are like, I don't agree with anything this person has said besides the fact that I don't spend as much money on taxes. And those are the people that I'm especially like, fuck you, because you are
Disregard other issues.
You're disregarding every other issue. You're a single issue voter. That's just, I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
However, when it comes down to these smaller people that are being fed fast food, that are taking in fast food from not only specific news sources, but also social media, especially.
Yeah.
Because a lot of social media is just, here's a highlight reel,
Yeah.
here's some BS, and here's no context. And you get nothing out of it. That's why, like, I do my very best to try and read. The big thing I read is the New York Times, because I think there is biases there for sure, but I found that most information there tends to be true. But like, I don't want to sit on YouTube and watch someone give their opinions.
And I find it with YouTube, the comments also have
Yeah.
their own set of opinions, you know?
And it just gets you riled up.
Yep.
And, I've fallen into that trap many times, and I will, like, I don't love it, but it's easy. Well, like everything, like you said earlier before the podcast, a lot of that stuff is catered to get you upset and to get you like doom and the end of the world is here.
It appears that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you look back through history, anybody who loves history, I think one of the things that you learn to love about it is that it tends to be cyclical. You can see, because I think that what doesn't change very much through history is human patterns. But what does change dramatically is human technology, right? So, and we don't necessarily always give ourselves credit for the fact that we've moved into this era of technology that is profoundly beyond anything that any Homo sapien has ever experienced in the entirety of human history. And we're acting like this is just another era, but it's not.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has been very common throughout human history is propaganda.
Yeah.
And propaganda is not used in one direction or the other. It is used as an opportunity to us and them. That's what it has always been used, is that if you can create friction in a class system, then you can keep people in that class system struggling with each other so that the people who are in charge of that system benefit greatly. Very complicated shit, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that you were saying in the beginning that that I was so curious to dig more into is that, like, if we just remove ourselves for a second and we just kind of zoom out and we're like, all right, we're looking at this planet, we're aliens looking down at this planet, trying to figure out, why is the same species sending bombs from one place to another, killing each other? Why are people walking through a grocery store and making another person feel poorly about themselves? Why is there all of this strife? I think it would probably be more likely that it was created by propaganda than it is that people don't have the love in their heart to be able to be kind to one another.
Yeah.
And that builds, and then the question is, what are we all willing to do to try to unravel it? But it sounded like the thing that you were saying was really beautiful, is that maybe it's possible, maybe it's not. Maybe the world will always have this level of friction to it, which is what we have to deal with. Or maybe the other side is that it's like letting as much love into our hearts as we possibly can to be able to see people for where they are. Remember that board that we were looking at there, and we went through the order in which we go through our 9 principles. And one of the things that became very obvious to us is that the very first principle is always self-awareness. Because if you don't see yourself completely clearly, it's very difficult to figure out what next steps you take. But I would say equally important to the right of that is empathy. And empathy is so important because it's our opportunity to be able to realize that if we all believe that we're equals, there's this really important thing that has to happen, which is that we have to walk into a room and we have to look down on no one. But we also have to walk into a room and look up to no one.
Yeah.
And if you don't get both sides of that, you don't realize what equality actually is, right? Because you're not giving yourself equality. You have to walk into a room and be like, listen, if you draw a breath,
Same. We're all the same. Yeah.
we're the same, right? We're the same. We're the same species. We're the same people. We've got the same struggles. We've got the same things that we want to improve. But if you look down on someone, what gets missed every single time is that you have also put yourself in a position where you are looking up to someone, and that someone can now manipulate you.
I mean, a lot of examples in history of just like the person up, you follow them, and it becomes worshiping somebody can just lead to a lot of death.
And put that in every direction, in every context, and you could find that it's relatively true in every, so that it's not easy to find a camp to get into where that couldn't be true. But the antidote to it seems like acceptance and love. You know what I mean? If everybody can just be who they are, and we all just slow back and we're like, okay, hold on. First of all, can we all look at the fact that it seems wildly obvious that we're all on a circle of a spectrum, that there is no individual who's having exactly the same experience. Sexuality goes into that, style goes into that, talent goes into that, like all of this amazing variety of versions of being a human between your genetics and your experiences make an 100% unique version of a human being. Why would we want to do anything other than celebrate that?
That's true.
Like, that's fucking absurd, because all of the learning in life happens in the difference, not in the same. All of it happens in the difference.
Like,
Everything
that's a
that
good
I
point.
don't
Yeah.
know about myself is available to me in everything that's different between me and you, right? And like, even gender as being this, wildly diverse thing that can happen, it's also an incredible opportunity to be able to learn about the nuanced differences in the way that everybody is interpreting those things.
It's true.
There's so much that has been pitched to us as opportunity to be able to have friction, that with the right optics, we might be able to turn into love and patience and opportunity.
Curiosity. Yeah.
This is where I think curiosity is the most effective tool, because without it, what's the alternative? What is the alternative to curiosity?
Your mind's closed off, and you just leads to more hate and just like, you're different than me, so I'm more important than you or something.
Which
Echo chambers.
my assumption after I've done the work on it as much as I could, to the best of my ability, is that the opposite of curiosity ends up being authority. which means that someone thinks that they're better than someone else so that they can rule them.
Yep.
And that is a really tricky thing when you think about it. I don't think that curiosity says that you can't have a hierarchy of decision making. Like if you're in a band, everybody's like, now it's fucking cool for you to do the tempo. We like that. Thank you for doing the tempo. We really appreciate it. Like you can be in charge of that. Please, by all means, make sure that that's working the way that it needs to. But it also probably required the curiosity to be able to understand why tempo was so important and why the drums are the right place for that tempo to be able to start so that somebody else can play their role and do that with mastery and so on and so on and so on. But with authority, if you were like, I'm the drummer, I've got the tempo, get in line.
Buddy Rich. I mean, Buddy Rich.
Oh, that
is
was
a-
Buddy Rich.
the jazz drummer who's
Dude.
just very like one of the greatest, but just a bad person. Like he was just an authority figure.
How much does that diminish his
Screaming at his
potential,
band
right?
players.
So somebody who's just
People look at him as an asshole now. Like,
right, somebody who's wildly good at what they did, but if they had developed this one other skill of being able to be more curious, could they have seen that they could have enhanced what they were doing by allowing more people to be able to come into that?
that's true.
It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
So
It's good you mentioned Buddy Rich because he was also like, while I will sit here and I'll say watching Buddy Rich drum solos are, it is insane. It is like, that is not a human thing. It is insane what he can do. He's also the person that said, like rock and roll is bullshit. I hate rock and roll. Rock and roll is stupid, blah, blah, blah. That's not an exact quote.
Basically, yeah.
But he said that thing about like rock and roll drummers are nothing basically compared to a jazz drummer, and I very much just don't believe in that. And like he was also one of those people that was raised to be this perfect jazz drummer and all these things, and it's just like, I think he got better with his age because he covered a Beatles song.
Hell yeah.
But it's like he would scream at his band players on the bus and like just be also racist and like all these horrible things. He was an asshole.
sometimes intellectual authority is it corrupts people.
Yeah, he grew a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like insecurity and intellectual authority, and all of a sudden you start like trying to make up reasons why you're better than everybody else. But really, in reality, it's like if somebody's awesome at playing the drums, whether they're doing rock and roll or jazz or hip hop or whatever it is that they want to apply that to, like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
true.
taking your talent and putting it into something that anybody can enjoy. Like, why is that a competition?
Yep.
Why does that not just be like, everybody bring your best and let's see what we got?
I'd like to actually talk about authority in art and more specifically jazz. There's this long history of like band leaders being very mean and stern, but what that did actually was drive the music to be better because everybody was on the top of their game. Like there's this thing in jazz jam sessions now called vibing, where you kind of like you show up a young musician because they're doing something wrong, and it's almost like a form of embarrassment. But I think there's a case for authority in art leading to the art itself becoming better because there's standards for it.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if like we can have this mentality of like, oh, just the vibes, like everybody is a unique individual and like just they're themselves, but we also can hold the art to a standard where we should have authority over how people are in order to create the best product. But that drives it very far, and I understand that. But like just a lot of the jazz musicians that I think about, like my inspirations, like Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, just the amount of hours they put into practice into making their craft what it was. Just I think authority in art is something we should have sometimes. And there's definitely a limit, but
I definitely don't think that you're wrong. If I could just offer an examination of what that really is asking us to kind of put up against each other, that we can look at what is the most effective way to do it, is that, especially when it comes to coaching something, but any form of leadership, really, you really only have two options. There is fear and there's respect, right? And fear gets unbelievably effective short-term goals.
yeah, it's true.
Right? So if you scare somebody in the moment, you will get them to do something in that moment right away, right? But the downside is that those people are less likely to be able to continue to want to participate in what you do for the long run.
Yeah.
So you eventually will lose some part of them, their soul, their concentration, their focus will start to diminish away from you if you continue to use fear as your primary source of how you motivate people. On the other end, respect is really difficult because in the moment, sometimes you have to give a little bit in that moment. So where somebody using fear might, the example that I'm thinking of, and maybe this is super cliche, is that drumming movie.
I knew you were gonna.
It was in my mind.
waiting.
I think all three of us were just thinking
was-
about
I was-
Whiplash.
Yeah, I was trying not to do it because I knew it's probably one of those like super, like if you are actually a drummer, it's not the same thing as it was for me watching it. But
No,
it's
a good
pretty
example.
special.
No,
movie.
it is honestly like
Perfect for this
while it's not
conversation.
like 100% accurate to everything, and it is a movie, and you have to understand like movies in of itself is an art, and that movie is an art in its
Yeah.
own form, and that is a movie.
Yeah.
It does a great job at representing jazz.
I will say this. I grew up racing cars. I have an older brother, and him and I raced for most of our 20s. And there has never been a movie that ever depicted racing accurately. So I hope that at least Whiplash did drumming more service than any movie I've ever seen that tries to get that genre right.
Whiplash has a huge, it honestly has a huge role in my life, or it did.
Because it inspired you in some way, or
Yes. Yeah, honestly, yes and no. It's weird because all right, so Whiplash, the whole spoiler alert, but the whole thing at the end, the teacher embarrasses him in front of all these
you already
people.
surprised us that you're white, and now you're going to give a spoiler.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should
on,
just leave.
That's God. All 11 of our audience are going to have.
Also,
checked
I'm
out
white
by
and
now.
I play jazz.
that checks them out immediately. I play jazz.
every single genre of music just founded on
Yeah.
with black people is, and then white people just bastardize it like me, but whatever.
That's actually a point what I'd like to talk about at some point.
It is a great point
Yeah.
to make with jazz, but all right, with Whiplash, he gets embarrassed and he comes back and he shows just how fucking awesome he is and that he's one of the greats. That inspired me a lot, and I took that and I was like, I want to be one of the greats. I want to do that, and I watched that movie religiously, like probably like I could recite scenes from that movie.
Great dialogue.
Still to this day, like I can recite some stuff, and I love that movie so much. I learned the song Whiplash. I can play it on drums for the most part. I learned their version of Caravan to the best of my ability because that's insane.
Yeah.
But with all of that, like the director talking about the movie in an interview, I think with Miles Teller, who played Andrew Neiman, talked about how Andrew, the main character, realistically would have been great for a little bit and then died of a drug overdose or
Yeah.
something and would
Yeah.
have ended up being homeless and dead. And that's what the character said in the movie. It's like, I'd rather be great and then die in a ditch somewhere than be mediocre. And with that sentiment, the more as I age and I like develop as a person and as a musician, as an artist, I grow farther and farther away from, because I don't think I need to hone my craft like that, because I think I lose expression. You become so obsessed with it and you become like, I want to play faster and better and more clean and more perfect, that you lose what made you unique in how you play.
Which is
It's
what
the
the
ego.
fun, the play, the passion.
Yeah, yes. And then also like your style, like how you hit the snare, how you strum the guitar, how you play it.
Mhm.
And then, that's when Elliott Smith became a part of my life, like was right after that, honestly. And his whole thing was kind of like, not exactly the inverse of Whiplash, but in some ways it kind of was.
It's more accepting. It's like,
Yeah.
these are my emotions. It's okay to.
These are my emotions. It was his music is extremely emotive compared to Whiplash, which is very like, extremely emotive a movie, but in terms of what's being played, it's jazz, it's hard, it's fast jazz. It's all about passion and being driven.
It
And
has to be perfect in the technique.
yeah, it's about perfection. It's about perfectionism, right? And And I've kind of started to let go of the idea of perfectionism, and it's honestly made me fall more in love with drums. Like my favorite drummer right now is this drummer Glenn Kochi, who's a drummer for Wilco, and I love Wilco. I love him so much. And he is such an incredibly unique drummer because he's very passionate and driven.
Yeah.
But he also he's such a very, very vast, broad drummer. He does a drum beat every single day or something like that. He's been doing for a
Like
while.
a different one or something?
Yeah,
That's
he just
cool.
makes one up.
Yeah.
And there was one of them where he had a branch from a tree and was just like fucking like hitting shit. And I'm like, you know what? That's fucking amazing.
Pop Off King.
Yeah, Pop Off Gang, dude. He rocks. He's so cool. And, I love watching him play now because it's like he plays so unique that when I hear him, I'm like, that's him. That's Glenn. If I hear certain other drummers, it's like, I know what I'm listening to, and it's impressive and cool.
It's like they sold their soul.
They sold their soul.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you went through this transformation of like the thoughts that you were having about what perfection meant to you, and then that transformation that you went through where you sort of change your perspective on what perfection might be and how maybe it needs to have a little rawness to it. It has to have a little bit of your signature to it for, that's where perfection exists. Was there anything that changed in the dialogue that you like? Did the tone of your voice in your own head change to yourself? Did you change the way that you were saying things where it was like, I still want to go for perfect, but the tone in which I tell myself perfect exists is changing in my head?
Well, honestly, I kind of went from the mindset of perfect exists to perfect doesn't exist. Because perfect is reaching for something that I honestly, I fundamentally, I don't think it does exist. Perfection,
It's true.
yeah, like you can reach for it always, but what is perfection? It is it is not objective, it is subjective to who you're with and who you're around. So
It's one of the all-time toughest questions
Yeah.
because the truth is that perfection can be all the time, or it can be never.
exactly.
And it's also a very deep way to think about yourself, which is that, you can be perfect right now, or you can never be perfect. It could be that you are always perfect and you're just working on trying to remove anything that that doesn't allow you to feel that way about yourself. Or it could be that you will never be perfect and you're just striving for that your whole life. And it's a never ending pursuit that you're never going to be able to reach.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the tone in which you say exactly the same words all of a sudden completely reframes the way that you feel about yourself and the relationship that you have with that.
Yeah.
I just always find that to be a very interesting topic about the way we talk to ourselves oftentimes shapes the way that we feel about the world that we live in.
One of the things
That
that
scared me for a second.
I think is really interesting about words that feel or concepts, usually specifically the words that feel unapproachable, like trying to find what is perfect, is what is truth, is that I think that those words often mean vastly different things depending on the context of what the conversation is. Like a line can be perfectly straight, right? That does exist. Absolutely. Whereas, and I could say, oh, I think this Beatles song is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about it. That doesn't mean everyone else will agree. But I think sometimes we try so hard to define what something means, and we kind of limit the fact that the word is actually really versatile.
Yeah.
Perfect could just be like your image of what something is. Like, what is like you said, like a Beatles song that's perfect. Like just a million Beatles songs came into my head at that moment. But my experience of those songs as perfect is different than another person's view of perfect.
Exactly.
Like perfect has imperfections in it. Like there are Beatles guitar parts where I'm like, that is so weird. It's like imperfect but perfect. Like I couldn't imagine anything else. Like George Harrison plays some of the wackiest solos, but I'm like, I can't imagine anything else. So the fact that it's individual to him is perfect,
And everything is so much better when you like the wackiness.
Yeah.
But sometimes
like the wackiness.
I one time was working this event in Canada, and I was spending a lot of time with a group that was like, we had like, I was a part of a team that was doing a larger presentation, but there was also a team that was setting up this staging and making sure that things were getting moved around. And we were all just spending a lot of time together, but it was a group of people that I didn't know these people very well, but I became friends with this one guy, and he was super into heavy metal. And when you foster a friendship with somebody, there's that like blossoming time where you're just sort of fascinated with that kind of stuff. And I was like, I really need you to tell me how you could possibly enjoy listening to this music. Like, because when you're listening to it and I'm around, to be honest, it's the exact same way I feel like when my kids sometimes will turn on their modern hip hop music that has a lot of like what just sounds like people making noises, but I don't actually think that they're trying to tell a story. And I get lost in that and I get really confused. I felt the same way about that, but he was just like, listen, when this music turns on, my head gets gentle. My thoughts get calm because everything that was going on in my head is now being reflected in this music. And it allows me to not need to keep that level of storm and turmoil going on in my mind because I'm allowing somebody else to take over my mind and do it for me. And it makes me feel very peaceful. And I was like,
That's
I've
profound.
Get it.
been an asshole. I really had terrible thoughts about people who were listening to this music, and I really need to reframe my life about this altogether. But it's incredible that's why I love curiosity, because every once in a while you can tap into something, and if you are honest about what you don't understand, or you're honest about like, this is the way that I'm interpreting it, and you can hear what the other person's interpretation is, sometimes you do have those moments that are just like profoundly put you into another frame.
Yep.
And you get to look at it from that frame, and all of a sudden it feels differently from that frame.
I think we all feel things differently, but in the same function, kind of. Like, I've thought about how, like, when another person puts on a song, I'm like, almost at the beginning, I'm closed off to it. But if I was thinking about showing a song to somebody else, I think they would think the same way. Like, I think we all collectively experience the same feelings, but through different mediums, kind of.
Well, it's happening all around us. So like even food, if you took a dish that you absolutely loved and fettuccine Alfredo, like anything, like just pick whatever it is. All right, you pick just shawarmas.
Okay.
You could go to 5 different places, and 5 different places would take a slightly different approach to it, right? And so the thing that is always the constant is
What's
that
surprising is like actually
no.
Wait, really?
No.
What, like?
But if they put something named that on the menu, as a consumer, I would think that I was getting something close to that.
Everybody, like, especially like we'll go back to fettuccine Alfredo.
Okay. keep it simple for my.
You're attacking that one.
Yeah.
We're going back.
We'll go back to that one. But a lot of people try to keep it the same. And that's like the one thing that bothers me is like, why? When you can throw your own twist to it.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, right? Which is that, like, let's say we just use fettuccine Alfredo as the example, as the low water mark for me. But because they gave it a name, it's something that's familiar enough for you to understand what it is that you're ordering. But the beauty of it is that if you get lucky enough to go to an artist to get that on the other end, it's similar but not the same. You know what I mean? The dish that you're about to have is not going to be the dish that you had at the 4 other places because that person chose to do it a little bit differently.
I feel like that there's key ingredients, like there's key mindsets, and then now it's how can you make that different?
Right.
Like with fettuccine Alfredo, you have your pasta, like your carbs, you have your fancy cheese, and then you have any additional things you want to add, like shrimp or chicken. So I feel like if it follows those same mindsets, you could still make it different to you. I don't know how to properly
Cue the gentleman in the room now saying, that sounds a lot like the way that notes work.
Yeah, true.
It's true. You know what I mean? You got a bass line, you got your rhythm, then you have to. This is how everything works, guys. Everything has a base. Everything has a foundation. And then all of the beauty that exists around us is all about the layering of complexity.
It's all about connected. It's very connected. The basis of things.
And when you start something, you think that the beauty of that is in the complexity. And then when you get closer and closer to, to really trying to get great at something, you realize that it's addition through subtraction. It's about taking more away, exposing more of the beauty of the simplicity of what you can do, because you're no longer trying to like be perfect at doing somebody else's thing.
Yeah.
You're now trying to be perfect at allowing your thing to emerge. Your particular signature on your fettuccine Alfredo.
Yes.
All right, wait. Fettuccine Alfredo. Break it down.
How are we breaking it down?
It does not.
My-
it does not
my-
look like a.
my
It does not look like a
disdain for it,
respectable
or-
dish.
Why? What are your thoughts? Why are we going back to it?
Because it's something simple we can go on.
No, I want to know. I'm so curious.
For what?
I don't even know.
That makes sense. That it's like a. Okay, so I grew up in a very bland household, food household. So my interpretation of food is bland. Which I am not proud of. And then I raised two young men, and I probably have given them somewhat bland household that they've grown up in. And
No, I relate. With the allergies, yeah.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah, all you can eat
100%.
is bread or
But
whatever.
what you learn when you're in that frame of mind is that, man, there's like this vastness, this world out there that I never exposed myself to. But because I didn't expose myself to that, I had time to expose myself to what is, my craft, my focus, the thing that I love. And I realize now that the amount of time that it took me to dedicate to getting good at that, I'm super intimidated that I would ever be able to take that time and dedicate it to food or dedicate it to music or dedicate it to anything else, because you understand how much of your focus goes into thinking about being good at something if you want to get great at it. I mean, we all said it earlier. I think somebody said 70% or 80% of your consciousness that is going to, if you're not doing it, you're thinking about doing it. You're thinking about, what relationship that thing is going to have. How do I have to do just enough of this so I can get right back to that? It's amazing how much when you dedicate your mind to something, how much it can open up opportunities in that way.
I got a job recently at Home Depot and like 8 to 12 shifts, and thank you. And
If you had said Lowe's, he wouldn't have clapped.
I would
Yeah,
not have
that's
clapped.
like,
I would not
that's
have
like the
clapped.
weird thing about him is
I
that
hate Lowe's.
he loves Home Depot.
I
don't know
love.
where's
I
that
actually have a
shop?
Home Depot tattoo.
oh really?
Yep.
What?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
So the first thing I thought about when I got the job was how can I wake up early in the morning to practice? Like the music was still the focus, and also at the same time, the money I'm getting from that is funneling into music for like lessons.
Yeah.
It becomes the entire life.
Was
in a
your
sense.
conclusion alarm clock or?
That's good. I struggle with sleep, so like I need the alarm clock, but like it's been tough for me to get back into that schedule.
I'm just kidding around, but I understand what you mean. Like that, the negotiation of do I have to go to bed earlier now because I want to get up earlier so that I can make sure that I do this? Yes,
Yeah.
that's a real thing
It's-
that your
it's
craft will make you do for the rest of your life. Is that you-
Reevaluation.
Yeah.
priorities. You said it beautifully earlier, Reem, when you were like, you get invitations to be able to go out and do stuff, and you're like, I'm sorry, but that's not my priority. My priority is not fun right now. My
Yeah.
priority is getting better at what I do because that's where I'm having the most fun.
Like as he said, like I have adjusted my entire schedule just so I can make time to do this, and this is why I'm like, okay, I want to actually do this full time because like it's actually taking a toll. So like I'll work my 7 to 3, get my ingredients, and I will work like get out at 3, 4 to 10 p.m. And then the little bit of time I have at home is just so I can at least be somewhat human and shower and sleep and make sure my animals get the attention they deserve because they've been like home all day bored. So it's just taking that time to dedicate to like doing something I truly love.
Yeah.
And as exhausting as it is, I love every moment of it, no matter how frustrating or tiring or
That's a
It
good
may be.
mentality. Just love it no matter what. Like something I've thought about with like guitar in general is like I said this to somebody. This older drummer was just talking to me about his experience as a musician and just the troubles, toils, and stuff. And I told him like I've been thinking about just saying in my mind like I'm bonded to this instrument through whatever bad stuff happens. And that kind of gives you this emotional depth with the instrument itself, with the craft, that like no matter what happens to me, we're together in a way. It's like it's strange, like tying yourself to this object.
I get that.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily feel that with drums per se.
Yeah.
Because like while I love drums and I love playing drums, I more love the art of just playing with people.
Yeah.
But I do understand that. I think we all tie ourselves to things or people or.
Which can be bad sometimes, but
Oh, definitely, 100%. Yep.
I think it makes a lot more sense to be to be tied to something physical, guitar, drums, food, than it does 9 words on a wall. You know what I'm saying? So like whatever our craft is, it's an expression of us. And so it's like, what would I feel like without my guitar to be able to allow people to see that? What would
Yeah.
it feel like to not be able to have the drums, to be able to have that playful interaction with people and to feel that, back and forth? What would it be like to not be able to, make an expression of you that people can actually taste? Like that's
Gives you motivation.
it's purpose. I don't know if this is true, guys. And this is I would say if there was a hot take that I had tonight, this is probably it. And again, I don't know that I'm not completely convinced that the opposite of purpose isn't depression and vice versa. That if without having purpose, that the natural state of being becomes depression. And that with purpose, you can start to figure out how you can dig more and more into your purpose to try to get yourself further and further away from what feels depressive. Now, that is, for the sake of this conversation, I would say like we need to keep it in the boundaries of what are normal singular feelings of depression, not clinical depression, where your body is releasing chemicals that you have no control over that are causing bipolar level swings of ups and downs. That I have no doubt has purpose may not have the same effect on, right?
Yeah.
But if we're talking about sort of in that middle ground of the daily doses of ich and sort of depressive feelings that you might get, so much of that can be absorbed in feeling like you have this purpose that you can go to, this relationship that brings you into something that makes you feel connected.
I don't like that.
There's snake. Yeah, there's actually.
It just tells us that we're now at the 2-hour mark.
Oh,
So we now only have 1 hour left, right?
Actually, that was for. We're at 2 hours 46 minutes. I wanted to just say
you were saying some
something
great
about
stuff.
The last question.
no way.
man.
There's only 14
Did
minutes
we
left.
answer this?
I got to be honest, guys. This is the most flow I've ever experienced in this room.
No, I've
You guys are
I'm-
amazing.
I'm having the time of my life,
Hell
honestly.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was only.
Before we get into the last question, it seemed like you had something that was touching on for you that you wanted to.
Yeah, so you basically define depression. Did you define depression as the opposite of purpose, or do you think it is?
These are the kinds of things that I try to use language to my advantage for. Is I'm like,
It's
okay,
really specific.
if this is a specific thing, is there an equal and opposite?
Mm.
And if I could allow myself to just think freely in my own mind and give myself permission to explore if that's true, then I need to stick with it until I figure out that it's not. And that's just one that I haven't been able to get to the bottom of thinking.
What's the opposite of purpose?
Yeah. That if you don't have purpose, that it might naturally lead to depression and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you are feeling feelings of depression, maybe the best way to overcome that is to motivate yourself to actions that make you feel like you're heading towards purpose.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that sentence you just said. Like I do think in my own struggles with depression, I do think like purpose and finding something that does kind of give you a goal at the end of X amount of time is pretty nice. It does kind of get you moving. It does kind of.
It might not get rid of all of the ick, but it just gives you that feeling like, okay, there's a light at the end of this tunnel, and I can see it, and it gets brighter on the horizon the more I move towards my purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't claim to be incredibly well versed in the world of neuroscience, but there's a couple things that are coming to mind for me, which is, the one of the interesting things about depression, even clinical depression, is that it's not necessarily that there's a depression chemical that's being deployed. It's just that you often have a lack of dopamine and serotonin, and one of the things about dopamine that's often misunderstood is that people think that it's a reward chemical. And that, if you do something good, you get, there's this sort of classic saying, you get some dopamine and, it rewires your brain to keep doing that. And that's not actually true. What dopamine does is it's essentially released based on context to try and let you know whether you are getting closer to a certain goal.
Anticipation, right?
Right. So dopamine is often created by uncertainty if you're trying to anticipate something, because you're trying to anticipate whether that something is going to improve the outcome of you reaching your goal. And so in a very literal way, the absence of purpose is depression in that sense, because dopamine is not really a reward chemical. It's a purpose chemical that gives you signals as to whether you are moving towards purpose or not, moving towards an outcome or not.
I've never thought about dopamine as the purpose chemical. It's a cool way to think about it.
One thing that's really important too in this conversation in particular is just to remember that there's nothing about this table where anybody knows anything that anybody else doesn't know. So everything that we're talking about might not be that, you know what I mean? Like that could be wrong, but it's also it's an opportunity to express free thinking, where it's like we've got to put something out there and we've all got to talk about it and figure out, is this feel like there's like, can anybody find the fault in it? And if we can't, maybe we're getting closer to something that we can all connect to that helps all of us simultaneously. But if it doesn't feel that way, then we've got to pull back and be like, okay, then there's a reason why this isn't equal opportunity for everybody to be able to get something from this particular thought.
Yeah.
And then we've got to navigate our way, through that. But that's opportunity, guys. Like that's where you start to find freedom. Like and I think that's a really fun process. It's part of, you guys actually would really enjoy this, but every Tuesday, you can join us anytime you want. Every Tuesday, do we do it at noon or 1?
12.
12. So from 12 to 3,
Darn.
Oliver and I sit down and he's behind the wall and I'm here. And for 3 hours straight, we just talk
Oh, really?
about anything that we
Behind
want
the
to. And
I can totally imagine
Camera's
that.
filming.
no questions, no focus. We just go and we rip and we we did it on Tuesday and we went 3 hours straight without a single break, I would say, right?
Not even really like a gap in the conversation, I think.
You have to specify. There's
And
no
we
gap.
call it, it's going to be its own separate podcast. It's not going to be a part of the Unscripted one. It's just going to be called Mic Check, because one time him and I sat down and, in this environment and we had to check the mics. And then by the time we were done doing our conversation, it was 3 hours later after we had just like,
It's been at least 3 times.
yeah.
I think.
That rocks.
But that's all we want to do in here, guys, is just remember how having a conversation is not all that different than than playing music with people, and the way that you get to pass that around and the way that you get to create that connection. It's not all that different than making food and being able to share that, which we're about to do, because I'm starving, so I can't wait to eat the food that you brought with
so
you.
many things I still want to talk about.
Yeah, I know.
But we
Right?
do have, so one of the things that we're going to try to do in here is that we're going to try to do our best to keep our container of time to 3 hours, because one of the things about keeping it to 3 hours is that it also makes sure that we have, and the people watching it have, an understanding that container is what makes the time so valuable. So what I would suggest we do is let's go to the last question.
Yeah.
And
I gotta text my mom quick, if that's okay.
yeah,
No.
of course you can.
No.
And
Next
very
week,
excited to see what the three of you are thinking for this question.
Grand reveal.
So it's not funny. It
Just get stuck in
just
there.
right now it just says does living. And I was like, no. What does living your best life look like to you?
I am at my most free.
Yeah.
Okay, so just what does that mean? Like, what does the most free look like? Because let me say, because I've done this twice with you. I'm an enormous fan of you.
Thank you.
I see you almost every day when I go down to the juice shop. I mean, literally, I think every day, other than when I'm not working from here.
Literally. And then I'm like, where are you?
I think that you have tremendous potential, and I'm somebody who's gonna endorse that potential in any way that I can. But to you, what does that potential look like? Like when you imagine the best version of yourself, what do you see?
I feel like I like comparing it to how I was before as a kid to now. Like before, I lived in a very heavily religious, strict household.
Mhm.
To now, like, I had a whole face. I chopped my whole hair off. My sides are shaved. I have tattoos. So I just feel so free. Like I can do it, like literally whatever I please. And granted, my parents now are very supportive, but they'll still look at me and it's like, why is your hair pink?
So what does that
Hell
freedom
yeah.
look like when you go out to the horizon?
Like I've accomplished my goals. Like even now, like I have such a better relationship with my parents comparing how it was in the past. So it's just getting like better and better.
Yeah.
So it just makes me look up more to the future rather than like, ugh.
Yeah.
So that's like what I identify as the most free.
It's just continuing that growth.
I can keep expressing myself with no limitations, no matter what I do for work or at home. I can be myself and I don't have to like hide in a room all day. So that's what I would identify as most free.
Okay. Gentlemen.
Could you repeat the question again? I didn't think about it.
What does living your best life look like to you?
I'd say something about the relation of potential tied to time. Am I making the most out of the time I have and making sure the potential of my life is the highest it can be? And that's just a lot of that's just evaluating what I'm doing right now that's wrong or right and then setting in the right direction. And it's just a long process. But yeah, with music, it's always just about reaching the next step. And there's the myth of you've made it or something, and I've heard from other people that like there is none of that. Like there's this fallacy. I forget what it's called, but the idea that once you've achieved something, you've made it. But in reality, when you get to that situation, it's not as much as you thought it would be. So
Yes,
The
I can
hedonic
definitely tell
treadmill.
you. I can.
Not- yeah, what
The booming voice.
Oh, I was just you and I talked
Raptured.
recently about the hedonic treadmill and the idea that
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was what it was. Maybe
yeah,
not.
no, it's similar. Just the idea of like I need to reach this next thing, but ultimately, when you get there, you're disappointed.
Yeah. Well, all of you in a lot of ways are exploring the idea of becoming entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs in different ways through music, through food. But what I can tell you for sure, as somebody who has, I've never worked for anyone else. I've only ever worked for myself, and I've only ever taken on entrepreneurial ideas, and I've gone through a lot of them to get to where I am right now. And the one thing that I can tell you for sure is that the only people who can't be stopped are people who won't stop. Right? So if you decide that you've got a dream, if you decide that you've got something that you know that you have it in you to go fight for it, you have it in you that you're not going to give up on yourself. You're not going to give up on spending the time in your craft. You see yourself getting to wherever it is. They are the least of your problem. They have nothing to do with whether you're going to get there or not. Everything has to do with whether you're ever going to stop.
Yeah.
Because maybe it doesn't happen for you when you're in 20s. Maybe it doesn't happen for you in your 30s. Maybe you don't get it until you're in your 50s before you actually get the break that allows you to get the recognition for what it is that you've been working towards. But you're going to be a fucking beast in
you
your
don't
50s by the time you get there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You just got to make that decision in here and in here to make sure that, like, if it's what you want, that you understand that you're the only one that's going to stop that.
Yep.
If I were to choose a specific vision, 100% my band, Rap is for Sale, makes it
Hell yeah.
in some capacity. And I know, making it is a myth to a degree, but I want to be on that stage.
I want to be there.
It's a standard to reach up to.
I-
Like
I
you
want-
can make the next steps.
Yeah, dude. I want people to like hear it and be like, yeah, that's awesome. That rocks, and I
Yeah.
love that, and that has impacted me in a way I want to feel. I want to make an impact on people's lives with my music, with the way I play drums, but with the way I write songs. Like I'll Be Okay, making an impact on people is
Yeah.
so huge to me, and like things like that. And I think Rabbits for Sale specifically can do that, and that's the goal that I want to reach.
Hell yeah. I think about
Hell
geese a lot. You know,
Yeah,
Geese came out of nowhere. Like
nowhere.
Geese kind of like they're new kind of rock band that like is on the scene, and they've kind of almost changed my opinion about like the Make It thing, because like they didn't have anything, right? Like from what I know, there's no like industry plant or anything. They made it themselves. Like it's just cool to think about. Just the next standard you just need to the next step.
yeah.
You know.
I think there's never been a better time in human history to remember that the structures that you thought were necessary for you to make it no longer have the power that they used to have. You can make it. All you have to do is find your audience, find people who love what you're doing. And what you just said is so important. It's like, speak your truth out loud as often as you can. Tell people that you want to make it. Tell people that you want to inspire them. Tell people that you want to start a restaurant in a greenhouse, and that you describe what your vision is for what it is that you want to do, and talk about it. Tell people all the time about your vision, because that is part of what will allow them to want to help you make it come true. You speak your vision into reality as often as you can.
The people will come.
It just takes a lot of courage, because what happens is when you're speaking your vision into reality before it is a reality, you get caught in this in-between space of being like, am I a fraud because I'm talking about a reality that I would like to happen in the future, that I have to obviously admit is not happening right now?
Cognitive dissonance, kind of.
Or am I a visionary for being able to see myself in the future, imagine the confidence that it's going to take me to be able to do that in the future, and then start to dissect the difference between who I am right now and who that person is, and figure out all of the things that I need to do to get my confidence to the level where I'm that motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what you got to do, is you got to figure out the difference between those two places and be absolutely surgical about figuring out what it will take to get you there.
Yeah.
But it's confidence. That's what it is. It's confidence. And sometimes you can't get that without having the losses that it takes to
Yep.
be able to learn how to get the lesson on the other side.
I think about comparing yourself to that non-existent person in the future. Like you just mentioned, like, how do I like surgically get to that point? You need to think about what that person would be like, and then just start living it in little ways, kind of. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
I have these extremely vivid daydreams sometimes where I can imagine like wild scenarios of what I'm trying to do with what we've done with this business and where it goes and all of that stuff. And it's helped me a lot afterwards to be able to reflect on that very deeply and think, okay, is that even what I want? Is that even the version of me that I'm really going for? Or did I just have some weird fantasy that was fun to have, and I just like went off into my own little zone? And then as soon as I'm able to get that into tune, I'm like, okay, does this fit the mission that we've described? Does this fit the things that we're trying to do? If it does, now I know what my next job is. I know the difference between how insecure I feel right now and how secure that version of me felt in that fantasy. And I've got to figure out, why do I feel this way? And what is it that I can do to be able to get there? And sometimes it's things you don't want to do. Sometimes it's like figuring out how to be alone without feeling lonely. It's not the thing that you think it would be to be able to build that confidence, but you start to realize, like, oh, as I was getting to this point, this was the chink in the armor that was holding me back from feeling like I knew if this got exposed, I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
I
You know,
think
that kind of stuff.
there's something really interesting to me about visualization of like connecting your own intentions over time. So like a really small example of this is if you've had a late night or whatever, and you are making your to-do list for the next day, and you're like writing down, okay, 6 a.m. I'm going to wake up, And then if you actually visualize yourself in that moment, you're like, okay, there's going to be a moment where I hear this alarm and I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the other side of the room where I keep my alarm and I'm going to turn it off. And then right then there's going to be a moment where I still get to decide whether I'm actually going to go back to bed or not.
I can feel it right now. How tired. Just
I have to
the
get up at
tired
6
feeling.
a.m. tomorrow for
right.
work, so I
And-
can
and
very
so-
much feel
Oh my
that.
God.
And so if you, as you're going and you're putting that on your list, you're like, okay, I know that that moment's going to happen. I'm going to visualize myself going through making the right choice. Then, 8 hours or 6 hours later, however many hours it is, you're in that moment and you're like, oh my God, you remember yesterday when I imagined myself doing the right thing?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do right now. And it's just a really interesting way of it's like connecting the intention over time and thinking, I actually, it becomes far less easy for those lower thoughts to
Yes.
creep in.
Yeah, because that you have this, like, if you have this high standard and every action you take is in sight of that, then, like, I think your actions become better.
It's,
I think what you said, Oliver, that's very cool.
it's the hero's journey, guys.
Yeah.
It's what it is. You know what I mean? That's what the hero's journey is and you are all the heroes of your own story, and you just got to figure out how you put yourself in the position where you see it that way. Listen, this was by far the most flow we've had. By far.
Hell yeah.
Like without a doubt in my mind, we could sit here for another
I
2
know.
hours and we could have flow for another 2 hours. That's how much I've enjoyed talking to
Yeah.
the three of you. You are amazing guests.
Yeah,
and
no,
I,
you too.
I just want to say, anytime you want to come back, for any topic that you want to come back and talk about, I am 100% sure that the three of you are going to make an amazing conversation in
Hell yeah.
anything that you do. So
Yeah, I'll be back. This
you are friends of the Unscripted Room. You are friends of mine, and we will do everything that we can to promote the three of you. So, last request, guys.
Yeah.
Let's finish with a deep breath. So I'll count to 3. We'll take a deep breath, and then we will wrap the Unscripted Room for season 1, episode 4. Right? Okay. So, 1, 2, 3. That's a wrap. Let's
awesome.
go eat some delicious food.
Hell
Thank
yeah.
you, Reem.